We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to We Say Things, episode 258, and we sure do have a treat for you today because this is going to be a 1,000,000-hour-long podcast. Sunsfan here with Cinder, and how are you?
Yes.
Good. First, let's say thanks to our patrons and then get started because I don't have the best sleep pattern right now, Cinderin. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
To Malicious Damage, Shohei and Luca sleeping like a baby, LA in 5. Amish Toaster, see you in Raleigh, motherfuckers. See you. No Matter Than a Hatter, Crownfall Enjoyer, Captain Broccoli, Sons Nugget Boy, STGC Daniel, Pepperballs, and T Coil.
And Vlad, let's have Puppy on the podcast. Disco Farm D, The Mega Pope, Shark TM, Janie, Dop, Wooden Aftertaste, Anonymous, and Monopoly has sold 275 million copies since 1935, with 3,000 plus themed versions worldwide, Mr. Niebling. That's almost, I feel like that's surprisingly few, actually, when I hear this.
That's a lot.
275 million. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Did you know that Monopoly was a ripoff of another board game made by,
Really?
I learned this in a movie called Heretic. Great fucking movie. I don't know if I recommended it. I'll do it now. Sunsfan recommends Heretic. Amazing movie.
Okay.
But it was a ripoff of another game, and they just got away with it, essentially. So now I have a sour taste in my mouth for that company. Anywho, we should get started, Cinderin. So
Yes.
let me change tabs here. It is the 7.38 update. Actually, let me redo this. Welcome, everybody. This is patch 8.00. I'm going to help Valve out with their marketing. 8.00 has arrived. It's called the Wandering Waters. What a huge surprise, a huge patch. And you guys know what that means. We're not going to read it all, but Cinderin's still going to talk for God knows how long until the video ends up being 5 to 6 hours. So what we're going to do this time is, first of all, we'll talk about what we're going to be skipping over, Cinderin. And if you start babbling, there's a safe word. If I start babbling, you can also do the same. The safe word will be horse, okay?
Okay, I could never have guessed that, yes.
That's right. Let's get started. This is a fucking ginormous patch. 7.38 Wandering Waters. So they added a bunch of water to the map, Cinderin. The water has flooded now.
Mm-hmm.
They've changed a bunch of spots. I guess we can just read it as you look through some of these little GIFs and whatnot. New creeps. The shrines have changed. Going to keep scrolling until we get to the actual notes. And we're only going to talk about the important changes. And when it gets to the heroes, only new things.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise this will be way too long.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Lots of quality of life stuff as well. Actually, we can start with this. Let's start with the neutrals changes. Okay. So now, when you get neutral items, you have to kill camps to collect these what are they called? Mad stones.
Moonstone. Close enough.
Mad stones. And once you have enough of them, you are able to craft a neutral item. And crafting a neutral item, essentially, from what you guys remember, before you had, let's say, just as an example here, Orb of Destruction used to be a tier 2 item, right? You got minus armor with it, and wait, what else did it give? It gave some stat. It must have.
Orb of Destruction?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it gave stats.
Okay, Gossamer Cape. The active on it was, or the passive on it is, you dodge an attack every 6 seconds, but it also gave move speed, right? So those are now two separate things entirely. So if you want Gossamer Cape, all it does is dodge that attack, and then you get an enchantment choice in which you add a stat to it, which is kind of interesting. It's essentially this giant quality of life change for neutral items. So it's a little bit more complicated, which I think that's one complaint people have had. But once you get used to it, it becomes more second nature. What did you think of these changes?
So first of all, the thing you can see on screen right now is that effectively you can make a Gossamer Cape that's just a better what's it called? Philosopher's Stone, right? Because you can make a Gossamer Cape that has the Philosopher's Stone stats.
Right.
I guess maybe it's slightly less GPM. I don't remember what Gossamer Cape or what Philosopher's Stone ended up on. Was it 90? So I guess maybe it is a little worse.
Well, the stats upgrade. Well, some of them do at least. The enchantments, as you go through tiers, you get bigger stats. Right. Whereas the neutrals, or the artifacts they're calling them, I guess they don't have to worry about copyright with that since, the artifacts themselves, the abilities, like getting that, like if you get a tier 3, you can still keep the Gossamer Cape if you want, and the stats will get better, but the ability on the artifact will not, if that makes sense. So you get 3 new choices of an artifact or neutral item, and then you can keep the final one by upgrading the stats, if that makes sense.
Do you know if the greedy thing has a duration or not?
The greedy thing?
Yeah, the one that gives GPM, because Philosopher's Stone had a cap of 750, right? It doesn't say here.
I'm not sure
whether this is capped. Because if it's uncapped, I think it could be pretty powerful to have one of your neutral items just have GPM on it, and you can always just inventory swap whenever you want and get gold. Oh wait, never mind. You can only have one neutral item at a time.
Yeah, it consumes.
There's
the system is totally different now.
Yeah. So I guess we'll get to this in a little bit as well, but they have axed a ton of neutral items. So there's way fewer. There's way fewer bases, the ones that you call artifacts. There's way fewer of them than there were neutral items before. But then the amount of possible combinations because of the enchantments is massively high. And within each tier 1 there's 8, and tier 2, 3, and 4 there's 6, and tier 5 there's 8 again. I believe you get a choice between 4 artifacts on all tiers and 4 enchantments. Is that correct?
But one of the artifacts is always the one you've had already.
Yes. So you always get the choice to keep it and make it with a new enchantment, or 3 new options, and on tier 1 you get 4 options, right? And then you get 4 enchantment options.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different enchantments that you can roll between. We'll get there. But yeah, this system, what's your gut reaction to this versus the old one? What do you think?
Well, I think it's more complicated. So for like the casual player, I think it's a little bit more annoying actually, but it's just one of those things you have to learn. It's a quality of life though. It makes it more consistent. If you have it's ironic because it feels like they built this system for like the Grove Bow type neutral items where you're keeping them. Well, you can keep it now and upgrade it, except they got rid of all of those artifacts as they call them now. So I think it's just an improvement personally.
I was thinking when I saw it whether this would be less or more RNG, which was, as I talked about at length many times in the past, was my biggest gripe with neutral items, was how big of a difference I felt it made to the game, which one you got. And then over time, they made the items more balanced, and they made it more likely to find something, and they removed most of the really broken stuff. Now with this, the fact that you get offered 3 out of 6 bases, and the bases are so different, I think it's we're back to, again, probably needing some time to rebalance these a bit, because there's gonna be some combinations that are crazy. But yeah, we're gonna go over all the new ones, right? So let's wait until we're there with that.
Okay, as we scroll down, a bunch of quality of life stuff, being able to ping the Roshan timer and whether he's alive, which is top or bottom, and it'll actually show the timer as well. You remember the days, Cinder, when people would complain about my skill ceiling? Well, everything's coming crashing down, bitches.
I'm pretty sure there's too much skill ceiling now.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it goes.
To keep track of.
Being able to mark things for selling. How does this work? Set an item to immediately be sold when you're alive in your base or at the secret shop. So, again, just quality of life stuff. When you have an item that has targeting effects, like a Lotus, for example, it has a little particle effect showing it's going from you to your teammate. So just better visual. HUD timers, holding Alt, you can click when all these different objectives in the games, if you want to call them that, are spawning, just to be able to communicate with the team a little bit better. This one is fucking amazing. Backpack grace period. Remember those days, which has been until yesterday for 20 years, when you get an item delivered on the courier and it goes into your backpack and then you have to put it the backpack item into your inventory slot and you have to wait 6 fucking seconds. There's a grace period now. Thank you. Thank you. So you can.
This is only when it gets delivered, though. You can't just backpack juggle.
Yeah, it's
all
for the
game.
first time for
Yeah.
that specific item, a game.
Do you know how long that grace period is?
No.
Okay, me neither.
I did notice that it worked today, though. So happy.
Yeah,
about that.
I'm not sure how long you have. 3 seconds. Okay, 3 seconds. We're told by wiser people.
Yeah. Okay,
Cool.
So let's get started with the juicy notes. So I guess the first thing, Universal Heroes, their damage per attribute has been decreased from 0.7 to 0.45. That's pretty gigantic. But as a result, a lot of their base damage and attributes have changed, and a lot of heroes are not universal anymore. So we might mention these in passing, but like all the stat stuff, we're just going to skip by.
I think this is insane, don't you?
I mean, I never liked the
cut.
I still don't like the universal stat personally, but
Yeah, me neither. But
it is what it is.
But I thought if they were going to cut it, they would cut it to like 0.6 or 0.55 or something. But cutting it this hard effectively means that your itemization options on Universal Heroes are way less appealing, right? All of them.
Yeah.
Even if you have better stat gains to compensate, it's still, okay, what do you buy to be impactful? Interesting to see how that's going to work.
Glyph lasts a second less on for creeps. How important do you think this changes? Slow resistance now increases minimum move speed. So if you have 20% slow resist and you get slowed like a sheep down to 100 ms, you actually go 120. Gives you an extra 20 movement speed.
I think it's borderline irrelevant. Like, there's going to be certain situations where you would have been crippled to 100 and now you have 120. Is that going to be a difference maker? Once in a blue moon, I think. I don't think this is that important.
Okay.
Also, which items have slow resistance?
I mean, there's a few now, especially neutrals as well. There's a tier 5. Spoiler alert! It gives you 100%, which is fucking awesome.
True.
Wandering waters. The top and bottom outer rim areas are flooded by streams of traversable water. These streams have a current.
I'm going to stop you right there, Shannon. You didn't mention you no longer gain bonus move speed during the night. I think that's important.
Wait, is that not in this section?
That's in the major mechanics one. You just went over it.
Did I just go over it?
Second lowest comment.
Okay, very good.
There it says the 3 second grace period. There you go. Well, so yeah, the no move speed at night is... Yeah, I guess we'll think about that a bit later when we talk about the flow of the map, I suppose. So, but just keep that in mind, that you don't move faster at night anymore.
Mm-hmm. So with this water, there's certain areas that have a stream, and if you go upstream versus downstream, you go faster or stay the same movement speed. That's the TLDR, I suppose. And the map has changed pretty drastically as well in terms of camps and where the watchers are. There's not a lot of ward spots, like obvious ward spots anymore. So we can kind of just amalgamate these. What do you think of the changes?
So I've played, I think 5 games so far, if I remember correctly, and I find this is always what happens when the map changes like this. I find it very chaotic and very unstructured, which is a good thing. That's obviously going to change when people play for months, right? But something that really stands out to me with Vision is that, like you said, there's very few obvious spots, and I feel like it's also rather difficult to get like clear coverage of an area without committing multiple wards. And I guess over time, people will find the perfect spots and do their best to cover it. But I think even if you ward the best, quote unquote, best possible, which will always vary on the game, right? But I think you'd be hard pressed to have even nearly as much control of the map as you did last patch. For better or worse. I don't really know where I stand with that right now. But yeah, that's one of the biggest changes overall of the entire game, I think, because that affects every single game at every level, is how much information you have access to. So, as for the water move speed, in the couple of games I played, I don't think it came into play that often. Maybe I was just playing wrong. That's very possible.
My experience so far is I don't even notice it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to take time to figure out what the point of it is. And I feel like this is one of those things, and this is going to be a theme throughout the entire patch for me, in my opinion, is from a competitive standpoint, in a high skill ceiling standpoint, this will matter more, and it'll become more obvious when competitive players do it. And when pubs play, it's going to be almost something they completely ignore for the most part.
Right.
But we'll see. I mean, it's only
like
been
you're
a
almost
day.
coincidentally just doing it. I will say overall, the whole warding thing, I think what they're trying to do is better than what we had before, because I think warding is now a little bit more sandboxy and a little bit more specific to the game, whereas before it was very, it was very cookie cutter a lot of the time, how you would ward. And now it's less obvious. But perhaps we're going to find, maybe after we play this patch for a month or 2 months, that maybe warding is too difficult, so that there's maybe like a healthy medium in between the current state and the one we had before, where it was too easy, maybe. But overall, I really like what they're trying to do with the vision game, that it's more... I think there's more space to be really good at it than there was before, if that makes sense. For the pro players, I think they can be very creative and very strategic about it.
All right, some other map changes. Roche is back in the river. Tell me if this sounds familiar, Cinder. There's a top Roche pit, top river. There's another Roche pit in the bottom of the river. Where have you heard that before?
Could be anywhere, Shannon.
Okay, just
I'm
checking.
sure it's only your idea.
Cinderin, if this was something I was mentioning like 2 or 3 years ago, I can understand that response. 10 fucking years ago, this was my suggestion. Finally happening. Watch it be complete dog shit, and I'm an idiot. So I'm really happy about this. I think we talked about it before. The one thing we didn't like about the old map was the Roche pits were so far away from everything that you'd have like these stalemates in these competitive games where, they're in this top area, but now you're in a much more populated, or what's the word? Not populated, but what's the word, Cinder? Your English is better than mine. Second.
I don't even know what you're trying to say.
You're in
an area that sees more action.
A busier area, sure.
Busier.
I know there's a better word for that, but anyway,
okay.
I feel like having 360-degree access to these pits is what made the Roche fights so exciting before, and now that's going to happen again. And now it's not just in one area, so it doesn't benefit just one side. Day-night cycle. That's fucking awesome. So very good change. He also has a new ability. So when he actually runs across the river, and while he's running across the river to the other side, if a hero gets close to him, he'll pick them up and throw them. He'll just toss them like a piece of fucking trash. Awesome. Very cool. His Roar of Retribution, which is, I believe, what happens the second plus time you take Roche, it now disarms for 2 seconds, which is another pretty great change. The radius has been decreased drastically, but the Roche pit it feels smaller than the last iteration. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Right? Might be a little bit smaller, yeah.
What else? Anything else on the Roche side of things?
I'm just thinking about whether... So he starts in the bottom right pit, which is roughly on the map now where the previous power rune was, and then a little bit more to the bottom right. Is that correct? Something like that. He's there for the first 15 minutes. So for the first 15 minutes of the game, he does not move, and then he starts moving. And I guess it's it's like a band-aid solution, so he doesn't mess with mid lane too much, because that's where he crosses, right?
Yeah, but so let me ask you, why do you think that matters?
No, that wasn't that important. It's just, it's special because after that he swaps every 5, right? And the reason I'm getting at this is, if you're of the conviction here that one side is better for Dire and one side is better for Radiant, right? Whether he's top or bottom. In the previous patch, when Roche was on either side, it was day or night, just like it is now. But because it was tucked away in the corner, I think it was way easier to ward, right? Because it was like a very constricted area, like we talked about. Now, I guess my question is it fair to both sides if, let's say, bottom right Roche is better for Dire and top left is better for Radiant, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then the quote-unquote Dire Roche is always at night, and the Radiant Roche is always at day. Who is that better for? Is it better for the attacking team that is contesting a Roche being done, that it's day, or is it better for them that it's night?
Right.
When it's harder to ward the map, is what I'm thinking about. I don't have the answer for this. I just think this is a complicated thing to solve when
It's
Roche
not-
swaps sides
but
at day at night.
It's not complicated at all. You can just random it. That was my initial suggestion, is that he starts in a random pit and then he always
Yeah.
goes to the other one. So you never know at the beginning of the game which side he's going to be on. That's why you had to scout it. And I think that literally fixes that problem. If it becomes a problem. I don't even know if it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't answer the question why he needs to start switching at 15 minutes. I think that's just great content. Him running down mid at the beginning of the game.
Oh, you wanted to do it minute 5?
No, minute 0, because it turns to day, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like the waves will converge and Roche just comes by. I think that's hilarious. I think stuff like that creates really
honestly,
special moments, and I don't know why they would prevent that from happening.
No.
Okay, Tormentor. Spawn has been put into the old Roche spots, if you want to call it that, and the gates have been moved closer to that area, a little bit to the side as well. And they will always, there's only one up at a time now, and it's based off of where Roche currently is. It'll always be the opposite side of the map.
Yep.
And then there's some changes to the abilities to the Tormentor that are not, to my knowledge, not that impactful. Like there's a heal thing at the end or something. But what do you think of this change?
Well, first of all, the Tormentor is worth almost twice as much, right? Because it gives a shard, and then on top of that, it gives 250 gold per person that kills it. So it gives 1250 gold and a shard. So it's worth 2650. And then if you all have shards, it gives an additional 280 gold per person when you kill it. So then it's over 500 gold per player. So killing Tormentor is going to be a really valuable thing to fight over, whereas before you were, kind of just most games you were trading. Like sometimes you could invade and take the enemy Torm, but this is going to be a priority for the teams to fight for. I haven't fully understood just how much stronger or weaker it is. The damage of the Radiance effect it has is twice as high. So if you're slow at killing the Tormentor, it hurts a lot more. It hurts as much as a Radiance now, basically. And I think overall, it scales to be stronger than it did before. Because, let's see. So its damage absorbed before was 2500 plus 200 per times you killed it, which means it would start at flat 2500. Now it's 1900 plus 20 per minute of game time. So the current Tormentor is weaker until 30 minutes. Is it actually just weaker when I read this? Does this, I guess it's weaker. Especially when it spawns at 15, right? Then the previous one was at 20.
Yeah, that's the other thing. So different timers, and I assume when it dies, it doesn't spawn for 10 minutes still? Is it?
Yeah, there's nothing saying anything different, so we have to assume that it's 10 minutes, right?
Which would mean it would be in the same area again, right?
Yep. I think so.
So for me, this one is not a home run. This change overall, it feels a little weird. I like the idea that it's on, you could work around the idea that there's one Tormentor and it's opposite side of it. I understand like the concept. Part of me will miss like the team camaraderie. Like, hey guys, let's go use Tormentor by our base because we're getting destroyed. There's nothing like that,
Right.
Now it's
you
a
actually
more
have
coordinated
to
effort.
leave your base when you're losing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Nice. Do you think it's too much? I think this gives too much. I feel like it's pivotal to the game who destroys this. Like the fact that it's worth 3,000 gold almost.
Okay, I mean that's a guess
Isn't
what?
that kind of crazy?
That can be fixed in one line of code, so I'm not particularly worried about that. It's more conceptually
if
that
the Tormentor. I just don't think there was any reason to give it extra gold, was there? I think if this was just for a shard, people would still want to do it. Now it's just so incredibly valuable that I feel like... You remember this problem we had with the Roshan, where second Roche just won the game when he gave Aegis Cheese and...
yeah.
Aegis Cheese... Was it Aegis Cheese and Banner for a while? What was it?
It was Shard.
Shard, right. Aegis Cheese and Shard. And then they split it so that Shard was second and then Cheese was third or whatever. And then they changed it again when they made Tormentors. I'm a little bit worried that Tormentor is in that spot where it's not about who gets the second one, but if one team gets the first two, I just think their win rate should be
horse. Thank you,
absurdly high.
All right, we've gone on way too long with a fucking Tormentor. All right, that's
Okay.
holy shit, chat. You're amazing. Keep it up. Anytime
right.
Synderen starts talking, just type horse.
Yeah, every time I say anything.
Lotus pools have also been changed. They have 3 entrances and with an empty chamber in the center, and you essentially, I'm just gonna show it on screen.
Yes.
Because that'll be easier. There we go. So once you get into the center area, you can see the AoE, and whoever's in there, as long as they're alone and you're in there long enough, the Lotus will come to you automatically. If there's an enemy hero in the area as well, then it will go to nobody. So this forces like the fighting. It's not about who gets there first. It's about who can stay there the longest, I guess, and not die. I think this is a cool change. Over time as well, they will, as the game progresses, the Lotuses will combine into the great and greater Lotuses as well. So making the block of cheese, which we'll get to later, is going to be a lot easier. So this change I personally love. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's good that it's not like a click war of who kind of gets lucky, honestly, a lot of the time before. Do you think... So the way it currently works is if both teams have a player in the pool, nobody gets it until somebody leaves.
Yeah.
Do you think if you're 2v1 inside the pool, should it go to a random team member of the 2 team, or should the one person still be able to block it?
It's not Battlefield, all right? It's not capture the fucking flag. I think that's fine.
Well, it kind of is, just very short.
Yeah, if it's 2v1, you should be killing the one then, surely, right?
Okay.
I think that takes care of itself. Overall, love this change. And the the Wisdom Rune has changed as well. It is now a shrine. So at the 7-minute mark, and it's the same timings as before, you have to stand in the area, and if you stand there long enough, you will consume the Wisdom Rune. And again, if an enemy is in that area, then you will not be able to get the Wisdom Rune until somebody is there alone. Amazing change. Very, very, very good. Same reasons as the Lotus, except to a higher degree, because I feel like this has always been a problem is, I got there 1 second earlier. Hey, stealing your Wisdom Rune. You can still steal it, but now you have to fight over it. So I think it's objectively just a great change for the game.
I think this is a really good change if they had to keep Wisdom. This was one of my biggest gripes with the previous version, was how ridiculously impactful it was when you got both Wisdom Runes. And it was just because somebody went there and stole it from Invis or had a better stun than your team did or whatever. Now it's like more strategic. I still can't say I love this conceptually, the Wisdom itself, but I think this is a much better implementation. Because I'm still worried that, again, in pro-level games, if one team manages to get both, you could argue, well, they just outplayed, which is true. But is the reward too great? That's my worry, is that if you get both of these and the enemy gets none, it's still kind of crazy how much the first shrine in particular does. But this time it's more your own fault and your problem if you don't ensure at least one. Notice, by the way, that it gives it to a random hero within 300. I think this is by design to prevent people within the team to fight over it. Now it's just like rolling for your lane. So if 2 people are like, no, I want the Wisdom, I want experience, you both go there and you lost the roll. And then you can't complain, you know? Interesting.
Bounty runes are every 4 minutes now instead of 3. That's another pretty big change.
And they've been moved, some of them.
Oh, yeah. The map is very, very different.
Quite a bit.
We talked about the Twin Gates. Do you think the lifesteal thing is worth talking about?
I think it's worth mentioning that the Mighty Mines and all that stuff is gone. I think we both thought that was kind of stupid, right?
It was a little random, yeah.
Like, random neutral areas had random benefits. You could get HP regen, you could get mana regen, you could get, what was it? I don't even remember them anymore.
Irrelevant,
but yeah. It made a pretty major discrepancy between Radiant and Dire. Because they weren't matched. Like, top half had HP regen, bottom half had mana regen, and then obviously you play different parts of the map. So, yeah. I don't know. I never liked them. I'm happy they're gone. That's my 2 cents on that. Lifesteal has been homogenized, so it's just more obvious to understand for people, and it's more obvious, I think, for Valve to balance. So if you had moments in your games where you were like, holy shit, Monkey King just healed from 0 to full by Boundless striking 3 creeps and a hero, he is now getting penalty when he's lifestealing off creeps, just like a decent chunk of other lifesteal has done recently.
Yeah, before it was kind of wishy-washy.
Yeah, you needed to know spell by spell, right? And I believe this is also, if I'm not mistaken, a pretty major nerf to Bristleback, right? Because they've changed the way spell lifesteal works. So spell lifesteal applies to physical damage from spells and magical damage from spells or attacks, and is reduced by 80% when damaging non-heroes. So, for example, Quill Spray with spell lifesteal is an 80% penalty on creep waves. I don't think it was 80% penalty before, but maybe. So, but it's all sorts of spells with spell lifesteal. Still full on heroes, though. Everything is full against heroes. That's the most important thing. So in team fights, it should mostly be the same, but during downtime and wave plays and stuff, you get less lifesteal on a lot of things.
All right, moving on. New neutral camps. There are actually things called flooded camps. So neutral camps that reside within a stream are considered flooded camps, and they're populated with some of the camps that we'll talk about. The camps can be easy or medium, and they upgrade over time for easy to become medium and medium to become large and large to become ancient. That's the TLDR. Very cool. Yeah. And I feel like the first thing I thought of when reading this is that this is something they could potentially do for all camps at some point, and this could be like a test bed type of situation. It's an interesting idea. You're like 60 minutes into the game, and there's still small camps. It actually is a bit weird if you think about it.
Right.
So that's cool. There's the Polywog. Are any of these... Let me see what these abilities do. So the Riverborn Aura is a passive. All allies within 1200 range gain a % of movement speed and outgoing damage bonus, as long as the Aura owner is in water. So a movement speed and damage bonus as long as they're in water, and then that will actually upgrade depending on the camp upgrading over time.
I love that it says Aura owner. It's the way that Valve makes sure that they've covered Doom.
There you go.
Right. It's the only way that the Aura owner is not the creep itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. The Boglet is a level 4 melee creep in one of the camps here. He has an active that sends out tentacles in the target direction, stunning enemies for 0.8 seconds and dealing damage. I haven't seen this, but that sounds kind of like Earth Spike.
Do you remember the old Tide Shard?
Yes, Earth Spike, Impale.
Yep. It's like that one. It's closer to the Tide one than to Earth
What does
Spike.
that mean? It's just slow? It's the same fucking spell.
It's slower and it's smaller and it's shorter, right?
It's the same spell. Okay, got it.
Tentacle surprise, Shannon.
A penis is still a penis, regardless of how long or thick it is, Cinderin. It's the same thing.
That's actually true, Shannon, but they do work differently, despite what everybody tells you. There is a difference.
Oh, okay? Don't tell my wife
like
that.
I said, it's slower, and that is important.
All right, horse. Let's move.
Okay.
No, not horse dick,
rambling.
just horse. Let's see. Arm of the Deep neutrals. Okay, that's not important. Okay, Marsh Mage Apprentice has a spell that will create a barrier bubble that protects the target from magical damage. So a defensive. I've seen this being cast in the camps as I'm taking them as well. Croaker is... These are just upgraded versions of the creeps we already talked about, right?
Yeah, this is just a stronger tentacle surprise and a stronger bubble. And then the Ancient Croaker is an even strong... Wait, that one has a new one, right? Oh, it actually sends out tentacles, Shannon. You did it. It sends out tentacles. It's actually tentacle surprise on the Ancient one.
Thank you, Valve. You could have called it Tentacle Surprise instead of Congregations of the Deep.
Congregation.
That's pretty long.
All right, listen. There is no way this isn't an Easter egg made for you. These are your two favorite words in casting. Congregation and tentacles.
It's not, no, it's amalgamation.
Well, you also say they're congregating when you're talking about teams grouping up, right?
No.
Don't you?
I say amalgamating. That's the one.
Oh.
Good try.
Yeah, okay, well, if it said amalgamations of the deep, you would know.
Yeah, that's true. I would have known. Ancient Prowlers have returned. Are we happy? Are we sad? I didn't mind them. Everybody else seems to hate them, though. So, I like the fact that there's variety in Ancients. And I don't know why there's not this evasion creep that was in Dota 1. Do you remember that? The Ancients?
Yep.
What was wrong with that? That's fine.
Jungle Stalkers. They never put them in Dota 2, right?
I don't know why. It was being able to take it over as Chen and gaining 8% evasion. That's kind of cool. It's just a random stat you can throw in there. Why not?
I agree that it's better to have more Ancients of different varieties. The reason people hate these is that they root.
Yeah.
That's what pisses them off. And to that, I say deal with it.
Yeah, learn to swim, as they say.
Yep. There you go.
Okay, so block of cheese. We'll go over some items here. We had to test this because the wording wasn't 100% clear. But so before block of cheese, would it give you the cheese effects?
No.
It would not. Okay.
You would consume it, and then you would have the barrier.
Right. Okay. So now you get the cheese effect slightly upgraded, 3,000 health, 2,000 mana, and then you get the barrier, but the barrier only lasts 5 minutes. But at the same time, they are much easier to make now because the lotuses auto-combine in the lotus fountains, or whatever the hell they're called, lotus pools. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of blocks of cheese, Cinderin, and that makes me super hyped from a casting standpoint.
So when you say they're easier to make...
You still need cheese.
Because, right, but the amount of lotuses. So before the lotus pools were capped at 6, are they still capped at 6 or are they capped at 9?
I don't know.
And well, they're not uncapped is what you're saying. So when there's 3, they just turn into a big one? Or what?
I can't remember. I could scroll up, but I'm not going to do that because of horse. Okay. But I believe that over time they auto-combine. I don't know if that means that they do that based on how full they are or just the time of the game. So, horse.
Because I would say that would mean, in theory, it wouldn't be faster to make. Because then there's the same amount of lotuses. They're just combining for you, so you don't need to pick them up as often.
Yes, for noobs like us that never pick them up in time, it's very good. Horse.
I mean, I've never seen Block of Cheese, Shannon. I'm just saying. Never seen it.
Bottle. No longer refills when carrier has a lingering fountain regeneration buff. A change that I think both you and I have been wanting for time immemorium.
Bendy is back, baby. It's about winning mid lane now.
Well, partially.
We'll see.
This is a huge change, by the way. Huge for competitive. Okay.
Shannon, we're told they don't combine, they spawn at a higher level, the lotuses, over time. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds right. Okay, there's 3 items that are orbs now. Orb of Blight, Orb of Frost, Orb of Venom. Orb of Blight, okay, we're going to be skipping a lot of these. You basically know I know it's slightly changed, but Orb of Blight, Orb of Venom no longer has the slows. It's just damage over time. And Orb of Frost will be the one that slows now. So they're all, actually, they're not all the same price. I'm sorry. 250 gold for Orb of Frost.
Yeah, Orb of Venom is 350, so it's 100 more expensive than before, and it does a lot more damage. It's just 10 DPS instead of 2, but now it has a 9-second cooldown. So... yeah, this is interesting. I'm curious to see how people are going to use this. Orb of Frost has the slow that Orb of Venom had before, but it also gives healing reduction. So, very interesting targetable item. And it's, of course, as you guys can probably guess, one of the components of Skadi that carries a stronger version of exactly what this one does, which is slowing and doing healing reduction. So mini Skadi for 250 gold.
Sentry Ward, we're not going to go through all of these, but I know that he's going to tell me that we should go back and talk about Sentry Ward.
This one's important, yeah.
Restock time decreased from 80 to 70, and True Sight radius increased by 50.
Yeah.
Okay. Smoke of Deceit now has a visual indicator over the caster, the person that used it. That's a huge quality of life. Thank you, Valve.
Very good. Yeah.
All right, you tell me which items in the next few that you want to talk about.
Everything that had a recipe change, at least.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's start with Abyssal Blade. It doesn't use Vanguard anymore. Now it uses Sange, which in essence makes it less of an all-round item for every hero damage block, but now instead you get Strength, Slow Resistance, and Health and Lifesteal Amp. This is interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think Sange is just a bad item. So the question is if this is going to feel like a stronger Abyssal than the old one.
Ever since they got rid of
But a
status
lot of
resist from it, it's felt pretty bad.
exactly. But a lot of the heroes that buy Abyssal Blade actually also buy Lifesteal. So then the Lifesteal amp is kind of nice on those heroes versus maybe the damage block, which kind of falls off late game comparatively. It's another way of people getting more slow resistance because that's now a part of Abyssal that you a lot of the time want to have in late game. And now that it gives strength, I guess it's kind of targeted more towards specific heroes, where before Abyssal Blade was just something you bought on like a lot of different types of carries could buy it. But I guess let's say, for example, you're playing Slark. Let's use him as an example. How does this Abyssal feel compared to the previous one? I'm not asking you to answer that. I'm just thinking about this myself, like in general. Does this strike us as a better or worse item on average for non-strength heroes?
It's better on Universal.
I guess, yeah, Universal, that's true. They get some damage out of it, the strength. I guess it's also a little bit convoluted how good the damage block was before, right? It wasn't
Probably
necessarily something
overrated.
you really thought about
Yeah.
when you had it, but yeah, interesting nonetheless. Battle Fury gets reworked for the 517th time since we made the podcast, so it's like twice a week.
Is there an item in the game that has been changed more than Battle Fury in terms of recipe?
I don't think so.
I also-
Recipe, no. I am
Since
possible
Dota
there's-
1, this has changed double-digit times. I don't think I'm exaggerating, right? At least double.
Yeah.
Of course, it's at least double digits, Cinder. I don't think it's triple yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah. I think overall this item is nerfed, and I don't think it deserved it. I think it wasn't the item that was overpowered. It was specific heroes that bought it, but we'll see. It's just, it gives less damage and less cleave, and it costs a little bit less, but it does not compensate. So, yeah. Battle Fury just worse. Bloodstone no longer has AoE increase. So that was a big part of the reason people bought that item. But now it applies a Dispel when you cast it, which makes it a pseudo counter to Vessel. So that interaction is kind of interesting. That now it becomes like a game of chicken of who's going to cast it first. Essentially, if you have Vessel against a Bloodstone holder, I think you just don't use it until they Bloodstone or die. So I don't really know. But obviously you can dispel other things. But that was just the first thing that stood out to me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Bloodthorn no longer gives allied team members True Strike, but it does still give them the plus damage. So yeah, a nerf to that one. Drums no longer have charges, Shannon. This was the last item that you bought that would come with charges.
Yep.
That no longer exists.
RIP.
You can still upgrade them into Boots of Bearing, and the main reason you would do that is for the inventory slot and for the slow immunity. But Drum is drastically different now. It doesn't have charges, but the cooldown is much longer, and the effect is lower. So there's also more value to the upgrade itself to Boots of Bearing, because the Drum endurance is 35 attack speed instead of 45, and the aura move speed from Swiftness aura is down by 5 as well. I'm assuming Boots of Bearing has the old values. Yes, it does. So yeah, just a better Drum when you upgrade them. I think this is a very elegant solution, by the way. This is one of the best changes of the patch, in my opinion.
Yeah, by the way, chat, I think we're going at a pretty good pace. When it gets to the heroes, there will be a lot of skips. I'll just say that. I think the items do deserve this much time.
We talked about Scotty using Orb of Frost. Hand of Midas gives Madstone bundle when used on a neutral creep, so this is a way of getting Madstone faster. You only get Madstones when you complete a camp, but with Midas you get extra.
These next
Halberd
two, these next two I find fascinating. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Halberd uses Vanguard, and I think this is interesting because I thought last patch Halberd was the worst item in Dota, personally. I thought it was terrible. I never bought it, and I felt like whenever a teammate bought it, or whenever I saw once in a blue moon in Pro Dota, I really liked it. To me, this was the anti-Medusa stick, and that was kind of its only purpose. I thought it was just weak. But now it's totally different. Now it uses Vanguard, Crown, Ring of Regen, and a 275 recipe, so it's way cheaper. It costs 2,600, which is almost the same as a Sange, which was one of the components before. And now it gives health, regen, and all attributes. And then, of course, the Vanguard component gives the damage block. And then you can use it to disarm, but the disarm can be dispelled, which is a way of compensating for the fact that this is way cheaper. Now there's counterplay, but it's also less mana cost and lasts 1 second less on ranged heroes. Now I think this item is actually good. It went from trash to useful. But
I
it's not
love this
unfair
change.
because it's counterable. I think this is a really nice change. We'll see if it's balanced or not. Maybe it's too cheap. Maybe it's too good. Or maybe it's just right in first try. But I think this is
from an off.
very
I was saying this on stream. That from an offlaner's perspective, if you want to go Vanguard, it's only because you're building Crimson, right?
Right.
You basically would never build it in any other circumstance. And building Crimson, if there's like a PA and then 4 magic damage dealer, feels really bad, right?
Yep.
But now you have Heaven's Halberd as an option. I think it's really, really quality of life. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously not good against the BKB aspect, like you said, but
the build-up aspect is awesome too, right? It's really good value.
Super
Vanguard
easy to
is a
make.
nice value item. Crown, like these all attributes on this is a very cool slot to have early in the game. It feels nice, I think. All right, Gleipnir, totally reworked. So it no longer uses Maelstrom, it uses Point Booster. So it's way cheaper, 4550 instead of 5750, so 1200 cheaper. Now this is the item that gives AoE bonus. So this got the component of Bloodstone from before, and now it gives mana. Gives more health, less int, does no longer deal damage when you root people, and the radius of the root is the same to it's like 75 less, but you get the 75 AoE bonus, so it's the same effectively. It costs 100 less mana. So this now is basically, what it's AoE Atos, which is what it builds from, right?
Yep.
But
do you think they need to update the icon to not look like Maelstrom?
Yeah, I don't know if this makes sense the way it looks now.
It looks it's still a little lightning-y. So
yeah,
the heroes that came to mind during my stream were Lesh, obviously.
Yeah,
and
Lesh for sure.
Underlord. Holy shit, this is an amazing item for Underlord.
Yeah. I guess an easy way of thinking about this is if you had a hero before that liked to buy Atos, this is probably good, right? I guess Lesh is the outlier because he didn't buy Atos.
You'd want to get it with somebody that can take advantage of the AoE bonus as well.
Yes.
In theory. I think it's cool.
Should be great on Lesh, should be great on Underlord, should be great on Ringmaster. Spoiler, he's in CM. So we'll see. But yeah. Cool rework. I am on board with both of these reworks. I think it's very clever. We'll see if how they rebalance numbers. That's always going to be the question, but I really conceptually like both items. So I think they did a great job with this. Mage Slayer has been nerfed massively, in my opinion. It costs 25 less, but it no longer gives int, and it does 15 less attack speed, but now it gives HP regen and damage. Yeah, I think this is just, for my money's worth, strictly worse. I can't think of a hero that this is now better on than before. I think health regen it's an okay stat, but compared to flat int on heroes that really wanted the mana and the 15 attack speed, I don't think it's compensated by 8 damage. So, just a worse item. But maybe it also was too good before. I don't really have a complaint about this. It's just a worse item. Orb of Corrosion now gives 8 agi because it uses Orb of Frost, Orb of Blight, and Band of Elvenskin. They were like, you guys thought it was going to use all 3. Put a Band of Elvenskin there for no fucking reason.
I was hoping they would use all
only
3.
Want this on 8 agi. I guess this makes this specifically tailored toward a type of hero, the one that uses agi as their main attribute, because those are the ones who are easily the best on. So like Slark, Monkey King, these types of heroes. But obviously you can still buy it on the melee strength ones. But I think part of why they did this was that they were tired of seeing a lot of strength melee cores buy this. And they want there to be a little bit of a quote-unquote punishment, I guess, for them compared to the other cores, is my guess. I don't know. Otherwise, it seems very random to just throw the band in there, right?
Yep.
Phylactery and Conda, major rework to Conda, but we'll mention Phylactery. It's got much longer cooldown on the proc on Phylactery, so it's 12 up from 6. The slowest worse, but it lasts twice as long. I would argue strictly way worse than old Phylactery, because it was the damage that was strong.
Yep.
And the frequency of it.
Rip Zeus Phylactery.
Yep. Conda now uses Tiara of Celimene instead of Crystallis, so it doesn't have the crit anymore. It's way more expensive by 800. But now it gives mana regen instead of damage. No longer crits. No longer deals attack damage. It does more spell damage by 100. And now it applies break for 3 seconds. So this is the caster Silver Edge.
Yeah, kind of cool.
Do you think striving for parity in that way is, how to say, do you think that's a bit flat spell design or game design, or do you like it because it gives casters a chance to break?
I think it's fine. I mean, you've seen them put in so many Band-Aid. Really. You've seen them put in so many Band-Aid solutions to things. This doesn't feel like a Band-Aid. It feels like an experiment. So,
and it's very expensive, to be fair.
Yeah, 5,900 is ridiculous. I mean, part of me is sad that we're not going to see. I mean, sad from a viewer standpoint. We're not going to see these bursty Conda builds. But
honestly, it was stupid. I
wasn't fun against
Conda was dumb. Yeah, I think old Conda was dumb. I think this is fairer, but I don't know if I like it having break instead of something else. But I think they're just trying to put more sources of break in the game, because that was a complaint people had, that it's too difficult to obtain break. And maybe this is a good way to do it. I think perhaps you could have done it on another type of item.
I do think Phylactery got over nerfed, but we'll see.
I think so too.
I think like 9 seconds would have been fine from.
I think both of these items are too bad, actually. I'm pretty confident they're too bad. But
well, Revenant's Brooch also got reworked. That's another item they've reworked like 4 times now, I think. So now it requires a Crystallis, Voodoo Mask, and 600 gold recipe. Gives you 35 damage and 16% spell lifesteal. They got rid of the magic damage thingy that used to be from Harkin's Blade. They've just given up, even though they could have just copy-pasted it a long time ago. They didn't. Now it's a passive. Phantom Critical grants each attack a 30% chance to deal bonus magical damage equal to 80% of the attack's damage. So a critical strike from spells.
This is a bit...
We've never had anything like this, I don't believe.
I mean, it's a pseudo old Conda, right? Because you're critting...
But
I guess not. No. Never mind. I take it back.
That was a burst versus... I mean, it was a burst with crit like in the item, I guess, but...
Yeah. But yeah, the damage type being magical on attacks, I believe when the patch came out, this was bugged on PL. I don't know if this has been fixed or in Illusion Heroes in general. It did way too much damage, but that's...
Yeah, so how does this work with Laguna Blade?
Well, it's on attacks.
Oh, wait, am I... Grants each attack a 30% chance. Oh, I see. Damage. Oh, man.
So it is kind of your Harkins thing a bit, where your physical attacks crit for magic damage.
A passive version of it. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know why I read it the way that spells could crit. I'm like, what the fuck? That does sound
if spells could crit, this item would be beyond broken, I think. But yeah, this is interesting.
And it doesn't cost mana, then. It's just a passive.
Yeah, they're moving things around, right? So they took the Crystallis off Conda, they put it on Revenant's Brooch. They took the Vanguard out of Abyssal and they put it on Halberd, and then the Halberd lost its Sange and they put it on Abyssal, right? So essentially, there's the same number of buildups. They've just moved the pieces around to try to figure out if this is a cooler way.
It would be good on Lena, theoretically, right?
Feels the Revenant's Brooch?
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my head around who buys this. I feel like you want this on a hero that hits hard, right? So that the crits you get when you proc are strong. Because you deal 80% of your attack's damage as a critical strike.
Yeah, but you are attacking ridiculously fast with Lena.
That's true. It could be good on Lena. The spell lifesteal is nice on her too. 35 damage. Yeah, I need to see some pros and some builds where people incorporate this to really understand when it's good. Because I think this is not obvious when you want to buy this. Sanjin Yasha loses 5% status resist, Shannon. This is the beginning.
Yeah.
5 years from now, status resistance will be gone again, and everyone will rejoice. But baby
not
steps.
Me. I like status. I think it's a required mechanic in the game. It's absolutely.
It's fine.
Required.
Sanjin Yasha was just too good, and this is a good way to nerf it. So, so I think both Shadowblade and Silver Edge. I think Shadowblade is significantly worse. It costs 350 more gold, but only got 5 damage. I think that's terrible. But in return, Silver Edge only costs 350 more gold, but got 10 more damage. So for that one, I think it's decent. But yeah, they just made those a little bit different. Witchblade now uses Orb of Venom. Cost is the same.
Okay.
That's the items.
Good stuff.
Time for neutral items.
Oh, yeah. All right, we can skip
this is
down
gonna
because
take some time.
we talked about the crafting. We don't need to go through all the details. So yeah, some new artifacts, aka neutrals. So for tier 1, we have Mana Drought. The active. This one seems.
Is it called a draft?
Draft?
Sorry for horse, but isn't this called a draft?
All right, let's look it up. One second.
This is the different way that you spell, like, if you have something on tap, a draft.
Well, yep, you're right. Draft. Wow. Okay. Good thing we have somebody
that's when you're out of
English on this
drinks. This
podcast.
makes no sense.
Restore. It's an active. Restores 60 mana plus 2% of the caster's max mana over 6 seconds. Taking damage cancels it. This one seems absurdly good. Am I misreading something? Cooldown passive is fill up. Cooldown speed is increased by 30% while in water. That's cool. This one seems insane as a tier 1.
60 mana plus 2% over 6 seconds. What does a level 10 hero have? How much mana? Let's say 500. Then that's 160. No. What am I saying? 2% of 500 is 10. So 70 mana over 6 seconds.
What
is
did
that
what did Ring
crazy
of
good?
Protection give? Maybe.
Arcane Ring gave 75 every time you used it.
Arcane Ring. That's an old one. That's a really old one. That wasn't
it called that last patch?
No, was it?
The tier 1 neutral wasn't it called Arcane Ring?
I thought it was.
Wasn't it called Arcane Ring?
Okay. This is a fucking horse. What is there was a, remember before there was mana boots, there was an Arcane Ring. Did they actually just name it the same?
I think so.
Okay.
Anyway,
Irrelevant.
I think it's a good comparison 1-to-1 to think about this as the new Arcane Ring, but it's only for you. So in terms of efficiency, every 40 seconds you get, let's say, 70 mana. That's roughly the same as Arcane Ring did before. But now it's only on you, and it can be broken. So I don't think this is that good.
Is this what dementia feels like, where you remember something from a long time ago and you forget everything recent? When you said
the
Arcane
60 is
Ring,
instant. Okay, because there's two ways of interpreting this text, right? It could either be 60 plus 2% over the 6 seconds, or it could be 60 instantly and 2%. Okay, it's decent. It's Arcane Ring, okay?
All right, we got one neutral down. We won't talk about some of the old ones that are the same, like Occult Bracelet, Orbit Destruction. Remember, these don't have stats attached to them. So like Orbit Destruction is literally just the -2 armor, and...
Orbit Destruction is insane, I think. It's tier 1.
Yeah, tier 1 now. That's true. That's the biggest change.
This is so good.
There's still Pig Pole. If we don't mention a neutral, it means it's gone, by the way. They didn't actually say we got rid of these. So Pig Pole. Polywog Charm is a new one. Tier 1. Has an active called Ribbit. Increases an ally's health regen by 8 for 10 seconds. While in water, the Blessed unit also moves 10% faster. So a little bit of extra water action.
Yeah.
This one sounds really cool for certain heroes. Ripper's Lash. Another tier 1. It has an active called Flay. It embeds thorns into all enemies in a 200 AoE. For the next 10 seconds, when they are attacked, they take additional physical damage. Hero attacks do plus 12 damage. Non-hero attacks do plus 4. I forget who I was playing. This one felt really good.
This sounds disgusting on Brood.
Yeah, they basically took the old brew mechanic and put it into the item.
Yeah.
Who was I playing? Oh, it was Dawnbreaker, because the Starbreaker counts as 3 attacks essentially, right?
Right.
So synergizes pretty well with this. That was pretty cool. Spark of Courage is still there. Trusty Shovel is still there. Brigand's Blade has made a comeback as a tier 2. That's the one where you do passively 3 more damage to enemies for every 5% HP they're missing. Your favorite Essence Ring has made a return. as a tier 2 item. This is the one that increases your max HP by 240 for 15 seconds. This used to be mega broke on IO, if memory serves.
When it was a heal, and then they changed it to a health increase, which fixed that problem entirely.
Gossamer,
so this is fine.
Gossamer Cape, which we mentioned earlier, still tier 2. Iron Talon is a tier 2, so it was a 3 last patch, I believe.
It was also tier 2 last patch.
Wait, was it? Another dementia moment?
Iron Talon was tier 2.
This one gives no stats other than just lowering the HP.
Shit, no.
I thought it was higher, but I could be
It was
wrong.
tier 3, I think you're right.
Thank God. Thank God. A new tier 2.
Oh, I think it was tier 2. Don't fuck with me. Don't do this to me. It was tier 2.
It says now is a tier 2. Hold on.
Yeah, I scrolled up to see if the ones that were tier 1 before also say now is tier 1, because that was the thing that got me with the wording.
No, Gossamer also said it was now. Okay. Searing Signet has a passive burn through. Instances of 40 magical damage or more set enemies on fire for 5 seconds, causing them to take 15 magical damage per second. Effect does not stack, doesn't affect buildings, has no cooldown. Pretty cool for certain heroes. Basically anybody with magic damage. Tumbler's Toy is making its way back as a tier 2. This one seems insanely good. Gale Guard is a tier 3 neutral artifact. Has an active Cyclonic Shield. Envelops caster in a 400 all damage barrier that blocks 75% of incoming damage and lasts for 10 seconds. While active, the barrier also provides 50% slow resistance. Has no mana cost.
There is no way this item stays like this.
It's crazy good, right?
It's way too good.
And
I think this is just broken.
I need to... Okay, never mind. A lot of these items
the math
don't cost mana,
barriers.
but there are still some that do.
The reason this is so crazy is that the way barriers work is that they take mitigation into account. That's why barriers were so strong, is that when it says 400 damage barrier, this doesn't block 400, it blocks more, right? Because your reductions also count. So it blocks 400 damage after reduction. Which means, I don't know, this sounds ridiculous to me. I think it could be 250 and it would still be good, in my opinion. So 400 sounds insane, but maybe I'm overrating it. We'll give it time, but I think this is the best neutral item in the game.
Okay.
Right now,
well, that's an early call. Gunpowder Gauntlet, tier 3, has a passive Beat the Crowd. Your next attack splashes to all enemies in a 250 unit radius for 50% of the attack's damage. Original target is not affected by the splash, but takes an additional 120 magical damage instead. 250 unit radius is insanely small. Is this for farming?
Yeah, kind of.
This is for farming.
I don't know. I can't place this item. I don't think it's that good. I guess it's 120 magic damage on your primary target every 6 seconds. It's kind of nice. It's like a mini... what was that called before?
Yeah, not Grove
the one that gave
the tier 3 one.
Yes, the tier 3 that also gave attack range on one swing on the ranged heroes.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember the name of this? Whatever.
Someone will tell us.
Yeah. This is I don't know. I'm a little bit indifferent about this. I don't really know what to think. Enchanted Quiver. That's right. Yeah.
Nemesis Curse is still there as a tier 3.
Mm-hmm.
Ninja Gear is now a tier 3, and it finally has been nerfed to a point where I'm like, okay, now it's not the best neutral in the game. The smoke on yourself only lasts 15 seconds, Cinderin. It only took 2 years.
I'll give my summary when we're through all of these, okay? So I can rant. I get one rant token today, and it's on the neutral item. But
Okay.
I'll save it until we're through, okay?
Serrated Shiv, a new tier 3 item, has a passive, Gut 'em. Attacks have a 20% chance to have True Strike and deal 10% of the target's current health as bonus physical damage. Cooldown of 1 second. So attack speed, builds. This seems quite good.
I think this is very strong.
Whispers of the Dread is a tier 3 neutral. This was a 2 before, was it not? Or was it tier 3?
Tier 2 before.
Yeah. Ceremonial Robe still there as a tier 4. Crippling Crossbow is a new tier 4 with an active called Hobble. Hits an enemy for 75 damage, then slows their movement speed by 80% and reduces their health restoration by 40% for 4 seconds. Slow fades over time. This is like the old MAME, basically, right?
Yeah,
From
pretty much.
Sange, like way back in the day.
Yeah.
What is the cast range? 600 cast range. Cooldown 12. Another new neutral, Magnifying Monocle. They're actually going for a lot of first letters being the same, like a Marvel type thing, I've noticed. Has a passive called Keen Eye, which I believe used to be a neutral item as well. Or was that Keen Optics? That's
Keen Optic, yeah.
Increases cast range by 125 and attack range by 100 for both melee and ranged. Taking over 25 damage from a player-controlled source or Roche disables it for 3 seconds, though. Wow.
Yeah, so to keep in mind that previously these numbers they pretty much correspond for ranged heroes to what you got from Telescope, right? But Telescope used to not break.
Yeah.
So it seems that the neutral items in tier 4 are significantly worse than before.
I think most of the neutral items are worse than before.
But then you get the additional, you get to tailor them to your hero.
Yeah.
We'll get to all of the enchantments in a minute.
Mindbreaker is still there as a tier 4. Ogre Seal Totem as well. I don't know how to say this. Pyrrhic Cloak is a new tier 4.
Yeah, I think. Yep.
As an active, marks an enemy unit for 6 seconds. 60% of all damage dealt to the caster is reflected to the marked unit as physical damage. Cast range 800, no mana cost, cooldown 40 seconds. This one, first time I read it, I didn't realize it was a single target spell or item, but it is. Certain situations, it sounds absurdly strong as a tier 4. Considering
I'm just thinking I would take this on Axe and Legion because that's where I can force a specific enemy hero to fight me and kill them a lot faster. I think this is incredible on those 2 heroes. Also, fun fact, I don't know if this has been hotfixed, but if 2 people with Pyrrhic Cloaks cast them on each other and hit each other once, the game crashes completely.
Yep, it's an infinite
because they
loop.
do infinite damage to each other instantly, and the game doesn't like that.
Nope.
So yeah, don't do that in your games.
Yeah, try it out. All right, tier 5s, and remember, all the stats have been removed from these. So Book of the Dead is still there. Does not give you the 30 stats or whatever that it used to.
Yep.
Fallen Sky has made a comeback. Magic Lamp, Minotaur Horn, which is it's essentially BKB for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Which
tier 5, it used to be tier 4.
Right. And we'll talk about this in a bit. I think for me, tier 5, this sounds weak, actually.
But yeah, I agree.
Pirate Hat, completely reworked. Has a passive that steals 150 gold from enemies that die within 1,200 units. If the wearer of the hat is the killer, there's no range limit, and an additional 150 gold is stolen. Also has another passive, Buried Treasure. Gold loss on death is reduced by 100%. So late game shenanigans, basically. So you can't take, it doesn't give you, well, obviously there's no stats, so no tax or anything, but you can't dig for bounties anymore. Yeah. Spider Legs has come back as a tier 5. I believe that was a tier 4 before. It was one of the original ones that people really hated. Has an active, grants you 20%.
It was tier 3 before, sorry. Yeah.
Grants 20% move speed, 50% turn rate improvement, and free pathing for 10 seconds. Walking over trees destroys them. So 20-second cooldown. Remember, some of the items, we'll get to this in a second, but like Giant's Ring gave that just as a passive 100% of the time, most of this at least, is now significantly worse with Spider Legs. But in fact, I don't know what they changed from. This was a tier 3 before, and it's a tier 5, and I can't tell you what has been improved with
I think it was roughly equally good back then, but with shorter duration.
It didn't last 10 seconds for sure. Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 seconds. Yeah. Stygian Desolator still there. That's minus 13 armor for 7 seconds. And then a new one, Unrelenting Eye, as a passive, provides 100% slow resistance, but the bonus is reduced by 20% for every enemy hero within 300 units. Remember, 300 units is super short range.
Yeah.
So playing as Venomancer, don't get slowed anymore. Fucking awesome. Experienced that today. What a dream.
Hell yeah.
Okay, you want to wait? You want to go over this part first?
Yeah. So I just quickly want to, before we look at the neutral enchantment, okay? This is my moment for neutral items, Shannon. They have so many neutral items, okay? There's so many designs. They literally took all the ones I hated the most that they removed and put them back in. Fucking all of them. Tumblr's toy. Dumb shit, it's back as tier 2. Hate that shit, okay? Why does this have to be in the game? At least it's tier 2, okay? So that's fine. Then they don't remove Ninja Gear, which every pro has complained about for like 5 years, that this is dumb. Now they make it tier 3.
I mean, it's
get it
way
earlier.
worse, though.
It's way worse, but still, I just conceptually don't like this one, okay? Mindbreaker, dumb shit. It's still there. Why do you get a silence on an attack as a neutral item? Really dumb. Don't like that one. Fallen Sky is back. Also,
fuck yeah. Love it. Love this one.
I used to not really like Spider Legs. Honestly, this is one of the ones I dislike. The tier 5. I think it's a tier 5. It's fair enough. Those need to be crazy. That's fine. They put back in Essence Ring in the fine version. I guess I can't that.
You're
Ripper
cutting
Slash,
out a bit, by the way.
Ripper Slash on Brood. Dumb shit. Hate that. But overall, pretty good. Okay. I understand. I guess the reason that the items that I really dislike, that I dislike them, is because of how fundamentally unique and powerful they are. And that's probably why they really want them in the game, right? Because they make moments. But yeah, that's just my personal opinion. I think a lot of people will be super happy to have the Horsey back. They loved that. I know it was a very
they did something
very
that
favorable item.
I figured you'd be a fan of. They made tier. I know that these are not including stats right now. These are significantly worse than before, though.
100% agree with
Book
that.
of the Dead,
and I wanted that.
Without the stats, it's the same thing, and that was one of the, I would say, the weaker ones. The reason you get it a lot of times is because of the stats. Fallen Sky was great, though. This is why this one's interesting. Magic Lamp, not changed at all. I thought this was one of the weaker ones anyway. Minotaur Horn, probably the worst of the tier 5s, in my opinion. Spider Legs, significantly worse version of Giant's Ring. Pirate Hat, definitely worse than before. Stygian, I think this is the same numbers, which is surprising.
It has no damage.
Oh my god. Well, yeah, that's a stat.
Stygian used to give, like, was it 100 damage or 80 or something?
Yeah, it was a lot. And then Unrelenting Eye is, I think, situational. So tier 5s are just objectively worse. So
I mean, all joking aside, or
because I was
half
5s.
Joking, right? I think this implementation of the power levels of neutral items, I think, is better than the previous one. Because I've said for a long time that I think they are too strong and they do too much and influence the game too much. So I personally, despite disliking some of the individual designs of what the items do, I like this implementation more than the last one of neutral items. So I'm overall happy. It's just funny that the items they put back in had to be these ones when there's so many to choose from.
They probably looked at your email to Gabe about which ones you wanted removed and then just really wanted to fuck you. So no more Mirror Shield. What are the big ones? No more Mirror Shield. No more the Boots one. Force Boots. No more Giant's Ring. Those are the big
Mirror
three.
Shield was
Seer Stone as well. I thought a lot of these had cool aspects to them that I'm really going to personally miss. I think the tier 5s have been they've been normied up. Does that make sense? Which I personally don't like, but you do.
I think what will happen is that the tier 5s will drop sooner in the future than minute 60. I think there's a realistic chance that they like where this is going with, okay, the power level is not as high, and therefore make them say minute 50 or 55 or something. So they're an earlier part of the game. And because that was part of the problem with them, right? Was that, they drop at minute 60 and they're meant to end the game kind of thing.
Right.
But then if they're meant to have that impact, they need to be completely busted. So in this softer version, you can probably put them in sooner and still have it feel not ridiculous, right? So I think that's cool. Yeah, I'm trying to think back to last patch. I'm just like going over in my head all the neutral items, and the only ones in the last patch that I really disliked were almost all tier 5s. Not as in all of the tier 5s, but all the ones I disliked were either tier 5s, Mindbreaker, or Ninja Gear. And Mindbreaker and Ninja Gear are still in, and then they brought back a couple as well that aren't the best. I still just conceptually don't like them, but it is what it is. But yeah, overall great implementation. Let's talk enchantments.
Yeah.
If you're ready.
I mean, we're not going to go through all the numbers, but there's an attack speed and bonus night vision one called Alert that has 4 tiers. So a lot of these have multiple tiers, and they just upgrade based on when that shows up for you.
Yeah.
Brawny is HP and health regen. Mystical is mana regen and magic resist. This one I have found to be incredible. Like a tier 4, 22% magic resist with 4 mana regen is insanely good.
I think that number is busted, but yeah.
Quickened is move speed and mana. Tough is damage and armor. Vast is attack range for both melee and range. It's only available in tiers 2 and 3. Greedy, which you alluded to earlier, so it does have the old numbers. It's just 2 levels, tier 2 and tier 3. So that's GPM and mana plus the minus attack damage that you get. Keen-Eyed is cast range and mana regen at the cost of maximum mana. Vampiric is lifesteal and spell lifesteal. Timeless, which again, it kind of took some of these old neutrals and just made them stats essentially. So this is only available tier 4 and 5 is the debuff amp and spell amp. Titanic, which you what was it called? The Sliver?
Titan Sliver. Oh, I was happy when that was removed.
Base attack damage and status resist. Glad to see that
at least
back.
it's tier 4 plus. It's not a tier 3.
Crude is tier 4 and 5 is slow resist and base attack time at the cost of int.
BAT is really interesting as a concept to put on an item.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very hard to come by.
Boundless is only at tier 5. That is 150 attack range for both melee and range and 350 cast range. So that's kind of the Seer Stone stats.
Seer Stone with a attack component.
Evolved is only tier 5. That's 40 stats. So that's
Apex.
Yep, Apex. Feverish.
Way worse than Apex.
Only tier 5 is 15% CDR, but at the cost of 10% mana cost / mana loss increase. Wise.
This was only obtainable in Spell Prism, which hasn't been in the game for 2 years, maybe? Something like that? 1.5 years?
Yeah, true.
CDR on an item is also very hard to get. So this is kind of fundamentally really powerful, I think.
Wise, also only tier 5, is 600 experience per minute. This one's really interesting. And the reason, first time I read this, like, this is dog shit. You're getting this at tier 5, but you can recraft infinitely your tier 5 items. So actually this, if you want to get to level 30, if it's really important for your hero, this is actually could be very good to take. Yeah. And then you just recraft once you build enough resources again. So that's very interesting. Audacious, only tier 5, is 100 attack speed, 80 magic attack damage at the cost of 10% incoming damage.
This one, I think, I'm just looking at the numbers, this one is wild, I think. Do you agree? I think this is the conceptually maybe strongest one of all of them.
Yeah, this
of
one,
the tier 5s.
I noticed they didn't do the attack damage, so they didn't want Stygian to just be crazy like it was before, I guess. But yeah, this one's
100 attack speed and 80 magic attack damage. Sounds wild to me. But
then the final one is Fleet-Footed, tier 5 only, 115 move speed, does not stack with movement speed bonuses from boots. So kind of a way to, the force boots I will miss personally, but because it gave a dispel and a force staff, obviously. But the idea of being able to replace your boots late game, very powerful mechanic.
I guess depending on how rich carries are at minute 60 compared to last patch, I don't know if they will have the same amount of gold or less or more, but fleet-footed in theory is extremely powerful because you get a slot, right? And I was just thinking maybe carries will start with Audacious, and then when they're 6 slotted fully, they will take fleet-footed to free up a slot. But we'll see what the economy looks like, right? But the fact that you can swap between these is interesting.
Yeah, creativity. I think that's cool. Plus, it's somewhat RNG what you get in a tier 5 item being like. There's been instances I get a lot of 60-minute games, and you get stuck with an item. It's like, man, should I keep my tier 4? I feel like as a tier 5, you should never feel that way, right? Because you're stuck with it the rest of the game. So, just a good quality.
So when
of life.
you reroll tier 5s, you get a new selection of options, or do you still only have the original ones you?
No, I think it's okay. I could be wrong. The way I read it was it's brand new.
Okay, because if it's a new role, then yeah. That's obviously what we should keep in mind with this when we're talking about all enchantments that are there. When you get your neutral item, you don't get all of the choices in a tier. You get 4 to choose from, right? So in tier 1, there's 5 different ones. There's Alert, Brawny, Mystical, Quickened, and Tough. In tier 2 and 3, there's Vast, Greedy, Keen-Eyed, and Vampiric, but that's on top of all of the other ones I just mentioned that are also in tier 2, 3, and 4. So in tier 1, there's 5 options. In tier 2, there's like 10 options. Tier 3, there's like 10 options. Tier 4, there's about 10 as well. So it will really vary what options you have to build your neutral items. There's going to be a lot of variety in this. So if it seems like, oh, this is cool because no matter what hero I play, I will roll one of the ones I want, that is not at all a given. In my understanding. So
overall,
I think this is where the RNG lies now, more so than the items themselves. I think the enchantments, it's more important that you get the right stuff. And that's my biggest gripe with this, is I actually think I love a lot of these item enchantment designs. I think your chance of getting what you want is too low on tier 2 and above.
Okay.
So we'll see. Maybe they give you more options. Maybe they give you a mulligan. I don't know. But like, if there's 10 options and 2 of them are good for your hero, and you roll 4, there's a very high chance you don't get the one you want, right? Or either you want.
Yeah, I personally, for me, the neutral item change, this just seems like it's an evolved version of the old system. It's just better in almost every way.
It just needs time, I think.
It just needs a little bit of polish. Yeah. I do think that there's an aspect of it that's a little complicated for tons of people in these huge updates. They come back and they haven't played in a long time, and even potentially new players come in. This does make things more complicated, which is something that should be noted because, as you stack things, it becomes almost insurmountable at a certain point. But for people that have played the game a lot, at least somewhat recently, this is just objectively, in my opinion, better than the old system. So it's just more so quality of life.
Do you think it's let's say this is a mega patch, right? Do you think it's better to do 2 of these patches a year or 4 that are half as big? What do you think is better for players, like returning and experienced players alike?
I think this current system is better for everyone.
Okay. All right.
Other than pro players.
I was just wondering, because I think you make a pretty valid point here, right? Like, is this a bit overwhelming? At the same time, if you're a casual player, and then it's not so important necessarily that everything is.
If you're a casual player, you're not going to read all the notes. You're just going to jump in, and you're going to be overwhelmed. But that's part of the experience, and people, a certain segment of people, that's literally why you play Dota, right? We're not getting new players with this, like brand new. Like, it's going to be very slim pickings. This is why I'm just. We can talk about this at the end, but it's baffling that there's been so many of these big patches. How are we not on 8.0 yet? That's literally, I can't think of a single reason that you don't just hype it up
7.0 was because of talents.
Yeah, there's been bigger changes. Like the last year's patch that changed the map into big, that's a bigger change than the 7.0 patch. And it was like 7 point whatever the fuck, right? So maybe somebody can let us know what the reasons would be. I cannot personally think of
I'm seeing horse in chat, Shannon.
Sorry about that. Let's go on to the heroes. Okay, so remember, for the heroes, we're going to be skipping most of them if there isn't something new.
There's going to be shitloads of lines, and that's because a lot of the heroes, the ones that are universal, for all of them, it will list all of their new stats to compensate for the fact that they get less damage per
If something
attribute.
Is new or reworked drastically, we will talk about it, okay?
Yeah.
So we move down. Alchemist. By the way, a lot of heroes, old facets have been removed. We will probably not mention that, just to save time.
We'll talk about the new one.
So Dividends is Alchemist's new facet. Alchemist gains 75 GPM for each Aghanim Scepter he has granted allies. Fucking awesome. That's cool.
This one's so stupid.
That's cool.
When do you pick this, though? I guess if you play support Alch, you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Love it.
Yep.
Okay, moving down. Anti-Mage, Magebane's Mirror.
I think for Alch, we should mention, you get corrosive this is a change to the hero.
Okay.
You get corrosive weaponry stacks every time your acid spray ticks, and every time your unstable concoction hits per second it has brewed. So now corrosive weaponry isn't just about hitting the hero. It's actually like a casting thing that synergizes with your spells. But then corrosive weaponry has been rescaled, so you need to hit a lot more times to cap it out because the spells also contribute. But this is also interesting from the support alch angle because it actually makes corrosive weaponry meaningful on support alch. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, stop me if I miss something. So I'm just looking for big new text.
Mm-hmm.
Anti-mage, new facet, Magebane's Mirror. Counterspell burns up to 270% of the countered ability's mana cost from its caster and deals damage equal to 100% of the burn mana, up to 400 damage per reflected spell. Spell reflection no longer exclusive to this facet.
Imagine you reflect a max level Finger of Death. Line runs out of mana from full.
That sounds great to me.
That's actually so bizarre.
You might have to have, if I don't know how much we want to get into discussion, you might need the game open to compare facets at some point. Okay.
Yeah. I have it open.
Okay.
I didn't want to do some quick math on Lion here. If you reflect Finger of Death, you burn 1,620 mana.
Good.
And then you ult him.
That sounds very, especially for a lion. That's great. Fuck that hero.
It's also an extreme case, but funny.
Okay. And if you want to slightly discuss any of these, we can.
It's fine. There's a lot to get through. So
Arc Warden is now a universal hero, so stats have been changed accordingly. The old facets were completely removed. Now he has 2 new ones. These ones are really interesting. Runed Replica. Tempest Double is infused with the bonuses of power runes for 10 seconds when created. So at level 1, it's the Invis rune. Level 2 is Invis and Arcane rune. Level 3 is Invis, Arcane, and Haste rune. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
When I say that, that sounds sarcastic. I'm not being sarcastic. That also sounded sarcastic. Power Capture is the second facet. The Innate is called Runic Infusion. Arc Warden gains 1.5 all attributes permanently upon activating any power rune. And Magnetic Field, once created, the field pulls all runes in up to a 3,000 radius towards it with increasing speed. Any rune that's within magnetic field or is pulled into it is automatically activated. All right, I just want to quickly talk about this. Am I wrong that this second facet sounds like absolute fucking garbage, or am I missing something?
I think the second facet is good for mid-arc.
Okay.
Because I think permanent attributes is powerful.
Okay.
That
that part seems good. The second part is very gimmicky.
Yeah, I don't know. It pulls all runes. 3,000 radius is huge, though. The question is if you can encompass multiple runes at once, right? And you have to look at the map and see how big that is. But 3,000 radius is how long is a Mirana arrow? It's 2,500, I think. So it's 2.5 Mirana arrows in diameter, this circle, the magnetic field, right? That it pulls from. It's enormous. So I guess it could pull both sides of the river and all the bounty runes.
So conceptually, I want this one to work because it's hilarious, right? We'll see. Maybe it's way better than I think.
There's a good comment from chat as well. If Arc puts magnetic field on top of a rune, you can't contest it because it auto activates as soon as it spawns. So Arc is guaranteed the rune. So if Arc plays with Oracle, he gets every rune in the game. Because Oracle will tell him where it is, and then Arc Warden can go and magnetic field it.
That's true.
And therefore he gets 1.5 attributes every 2 minutes. Honestly, I actually think that duo is low-key pretty fucking dope.
1.5 attribute for each rune, so any bounty rune, right?
Power rune.
As well.
Power rune.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the ones in the river only.
I see.
And water rune does not count as a power rune either. But it's still, I don't know, it's funny. I think this rework to Arc Warden. Also, I just want to commend Valve on giving up or whatever they did with this Zet has 2 versions thing. I thought lore-wise it was cool. I think for players it's mega confusing.
Yeah.
There's one version of Arc Warden now. It's not which side you're on, whether he does one or the other with facets and stuff.
I don't know if these are going to work, but I like conceptually the idea, or thematically at least, the runes being a thing for him. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I like the idea of this. He had a total rework on Ags. So Ags now upgrades Flux. And hold on to your horses. This one is pretty wild, I think. Silences when the target is alone. increases damage by 50% at duration by 2 seconds, which effectively, when you have Ags on Arc Warden, it is now an 8-second silence that does 720 damage over 8 seconds. If you're alone against this guy, you're fucked. Okay, that's it. That's the story. If you don't have a dispel, you're dead.
Wow, that is crazy.
This is probably the most powerful non-ultimate in the entire game, if you think about it in some ways. Because you have 2 of them, and they stack. You and your clone put Flux on someone who's isolated.
God, they really know how to make this hero more and more annoying by the day, huh?
I think this hero is going to be really strong in Pro Dota. But I think it will mainly be played mid because you want the levels.
You want the runes.
Potentially playing the power capture facet. I don't know how good it's going to be. Otherwise, the Ruined Replica one is clearly very good on every version of Arc you play, right? Yeah. Now, the Shard no longer upgrades Magnetic Field. Instead, the Shard is now on Spark Wraith, and it gives a second Spark Wraith when the first one explodes, so kind of similar to the old Axe. Scepter is now just the Shard, but a bit worse than the old one. Yeah, is that what's worth highlighting here? Obviously, this is a book, this hero. We'll get another book later.
I think Ags, Shards, new facets, and rework stuff. I think that's what we limit it to. That's a lot, though. Yeah.
I think this hero is going to be good.
That's very cool.
And very different. Okay.
Okay, nothing really for Axe. Bane as well.
Bane is a lot better. I think this is one of the few heroes I actually want to mention, despite it being universal changes. He got 8 damage more on level 1. That is a lot for a hero to just randomly get. So for laning, Bane is a lot stronger. But yeah, a lot of the universal heroes get less damage down the stretch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. I know Bloodseeker's been played a lot. Wait, wasn't Blood Mist the Ags?
Yep. It's no longer the Ags.
Okay.
You don't have it anymore.
So the new Ags is... Oh, there's a new
Shard
as well.
The new Ags is a stronger version of the old Shard.
So Blood Rage. Attacks under the effect of Blood Rage deal 3% of the target's max HP as pure damage. I'm trying to remember what the old number, like, not recent, but the original number, it was like 1.8 or 2, I believe.
Yeah, I think so, as a Shard. It was incredible as a Shard. It was too strong, that's why it got changed to being a flat amount. And yeah, now the Shard...
upgrades the innate.
Yes, so that gets you the overheal barrier, but it's way worse than the Mist was.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay,
I missed that on my first read-through. Blood Mist gone. Wowzers.
Bounty Hunter, cut purse is better. That's the facet nobody was taking, the one that gives you gold every time you cast a spell on someone. Otherwise, relatively unchanged, except I do want to mention his level 10 talent, giving 20 plus damage instead of plus 30 Gianata damage. This sounds really strong for core bounty to run that one now. Just getting 20 damage level 10 is crazy to any hero.
That is a lot.
Pretty strong, I think. Bristleback Seeing Red. I thought this was dumb always. I'm really happy they changed it in this exact way. I think this is perfect. When you're seeing red as Bristle, your allies see you, but you don't see them. Beforehand, neither of you saw each other. So when Bristleback was seeing red, you were just disappearing off the map. I thought it was super weird that your team couldn't see you. So he shares his vision with you, but he doesn't see what you guys see. And that is exactly how this should work. So very, very good change. Brood is now Agi again.
Yay.
Mention that. Counter-Strike on Centaur. 10% stronger. Counter-Strike in Dota gets a better patch than Counter-Strike itself. So congratulations to Centaur.
I think that, okay, since I know this is not fitting into our criteria and people are going to say horse very soon. Ironically, it is Centaur, half horse. Great song on YouTube, by the way.
Yep.
I think they need to get rid of this facet entirely. The other one is just better. I don't know what number you can even get to, because the issue is Centaur is also taking this damage. So at a certain point, Like it just becomes you're just suiciding. I think they're going to end up getting rid of this facet. Like not having to buy boots is such an enormous benefit. It's fucking huge. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. This is a huge buff to this facet, but I just don't like the concept for this one.
I mean, maybe you could have just changed the extra damage that it gets from the Counter-Strike facet to not hurt you.
Doesn't feel very Centaur-y, though.
Well, you're still taking the double edge damage, right? The original one. You're just not taking the bonus from the facet as well.
If they added mini stun, forget about the extra damage on this. If they just added a mini stun, do you think that's good? Like super good for a facet? Like getting rid of boots good?
As if that's the only thing it does?
It would need something smaller in addition, but yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty strong. Right? You can cancel channeling and cancel TPs and stuff.
That's the old double edge from way back. And you could suicide on it, right? That would be interesting to add that as a facet where you could suicide with double edge. Kind of interesting. Just an idea, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Just like the Roche pits. CK has 2 new facets. Fundamental Forging. When Chaos Knight crafts a neutral item, 2 of his artifact choices will be for the current tier, and 2 of his choices will be for the next tier, if possible. He does not get the option to keep his current artifact between tiers. Interesting. Cloven Chaos is the other facet. Chaos Bolt splits in half upon striking its target, stunning 1 additional enemy and damaging another. Prioritizes heroes. That sounds insanely cool.
These 2 facets are both S tier for me, or at least A tier, I think. So the left one allows you to get a tier 5 neutral item at 37 minutes. And considering the thing that I don't know is it says he gets artifact choices. I'm assuming he does not get the corresponding enchantment choices.
Correct. Yeah.
So he can get a tier 5 neutral item, but he's not going to get an enchantment on it that is the powerful tier 5 ones. But he can still get significantly better neutral items than anyone else in the game because he will get them earlier on all steps, right? This also includes tier 1, because when he crafts a neutral item, that includes the first time. That means he can start with a tier 2 neutral item minute 7 and start with a tier 5 neutral item. The question
is, like, or minute just 5, the artifacts, how much better are the tiers? They're not, I don't think they're as good as last, like if you're thinking of last patch, it's not as big, right?
It's possible I'm overrating this just because I have the mindset of old neutral items and that this isn't as strong, but I still think it's very good.
I wonder if they made the artifacts
extremely chaotic.
I wonder if they made the tier 5s worse literally because of this one facet, and if they did, shame.
Yeah, I don't know.
For fucking Chaos Knight, really?
But I will say Chaos really is fitting here because you get 2 choices, right? So it's like very RNG heavy.
True.
Which is his it's his thing. Cloven Chaos, I think, is just flat out, I would say, an S tier facet just at first glance. So what it does is you Chaos Bolt a target, they get both effects. So the guy you target gets stunned and takes damage as usual. And now 1 other hero gets the stun, and 1 third hero gets the damage. So you're hitting 3 heroes, of which 1 gets everything, 1 gets stunned, 1 gets damaged. If you think about how Venge Shard works, Venge's Shard stuns and damages both 2 heroes fully. This one kind of does that, but splits it 3 ways. Does that make sense in any way?
Yeah, no.
But you get it for free. So, I don't know. I think the Cloven Chaos one sounds really good to me. The bounce range is 60% of the ability's cast range, which is... Let me check. Chaos Knight default Chaos Bolt cast range is 600. So 60% of that is like 400 and something, right? About 400. 375? There's a decent chance you can get this bouncing.
Horse.
Maybe it's not as good as I thought. Anyway, let's move on. I think it's still solid.
Well, I want to say one quick thing. They could make Fundamental Forging really cool, the other facet, if you could get tier 6 neutral items, Cinderin.
Yeah.
Imagine
I'm sure they would love to make a whole new list just for 1 hero.
Yeah, Headless Horseman item that you can get only as tier 6. Doesn't matter what it does. It's cool. Chen.
That's my ion cannon beacon.
Chen. Yeah, we can have a StarCraft mini set in Dota as well.
Oh, yeah.
It was really good in Hearthstone. Chen is now an int hero. Has Marsh Mage convert, so just being able to start out with a skill from one of the new creeps, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one that gives the March Mage Apprentice. Is that the one that has the barrier?
Oh, they got rid of the wolf convert facet entirely.
That's the barrier one. Magic barrier.
I didn't realize that. Was that one like too good or something? The wolf? Starting out with a crit? And attack damage or whatever?
Didn't he start out with the small wolf?
Well, yeah,
like
but
the one that
eventually
has
it gets
the
bigger,
damage reduction?
Right? Well, either way, they got rid of it. So maybe they just don't have room for more than 4 facets on here. It's a UI problem. You check. You're in the freaking game.
I think he has 5, right? He has 5.
Do they have room in the UI for 6 if they had to?
I'm demoing him.
God, you're useless.
Well, I mean, you choose it pre-game, right? So I would need to start up a game. So.
All right. Thanks, Cinder.
Anyway,
thanks for joining us today.
Whatever, bro.
Okay. Where are we going here now? Your boy Clockwork
Clinks.
got some love. Okay, go ahead.
You don't want to mention Clinks?
I mean, sure.
I mean, it's not new stuff. It's just rebalanced, right? Suppressive Fire doesn't give attack range anymore, but now it gives a lot more mischance, so it's way more suppressive. And then Quality of Life for Death Pact. You can cast it while you're rooted or leashed, but you don't teleport, but you can still get the heal. And they added an alt cast to it, so you can choose to eat the creep without swapping places with it when you're running that one. So nice QOL for Clinks, and on top of that, you can auto-cast Tar Bomb, so you automatically fire one when you can, when you're attacking. So also just quality of life, really. Just makes it easier. Here's a little thematic thing on Clock. Battery Assault no longer deals bonus damage against creeps. There's multiple heroes that this happens to. Clockwork's just the first one.
I know you're a big fan of that.
2 or 3 more, I think. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I love Clockwork, so it kind of sucks for me individually, but I think these like roundabout ways of giving heroes farm as like a band-aid, I think there's a more clever way of fixing this by making the heroes better at other things.
He's also a strength hero again. Congratulations to him.
Yep.
I do want to mention the facet, the hookup facet. They have they kept making it. They kept changing it over and over and over, and now it's becoming more generic. As long as a teammate is close to where you're hooking, you get all the benefits from before. At this point, can we just say, just think of something else? I think this one has obviously failed. I mean, this is just not good enough. This has got to be good now, surely.
The other facet is way too good, though.
Yeah,
so
it is good.
It's the big cogs allow you to play pinball with people. That's why it's so good. You can't do that with this one. So
true.
It's way too hard to shoot a cog away and then run around and then start hitting people inside. When the one you shoot away, they can just walk out 200 range and they're out. So yeah, this just isn't good enough. All right, huge changes to Crystal Maiden. This one is wild. Okay.
I got rid of her old facets completely.
2 new facets. One is called Arcane Overflow. She can activate her aura to gain 35% spell amp, but increases the mana cost of her abilities by 50%. While it's active and Maiden uses any other abilities than Arcane Aura, allies within 1200 radius receive 25% of the mana she spent on those spells for 10 seconds. It has 30-second cooldown. And then on top of that, the ability duration is paused during Freezing Field, so it keeps the aura running. Cannot be cast during the ultimate with Aghanim Scepter, but it still has the full effect. So this is effectively, can you overcharge your Maiden and afford your spells? If so, she deals a shitload of damage. Maybe some core potential here, we'll see. But
what does it mean by can't be cast during the ultimate with Ags, but still has full effect? What does that even mean?
Can't be cast during the ultimate.
Yeah.
So when you have Ags on Maiden, hang on. I actually have to double check this too. I don't want to get this wrong.
All right, as you test that, I'll talk about the second facet at least.
When you have Ags on Maiden, that's the one where you can cast and attack while you're doing Freezing Field, right?
Yeah.
So I guess this just implies that when you have your Ags ulti running, you get the bonuses of Arcane Aura without casting it. Right?
Oh. Well,
that's how I'm reading it.
That's kind of a big deal.
Or am I misunderstanding it?
You're saying when you get Ags, Freezing Field just does 35% spell amp extra?
Can't
And
be
you don't have to
cast
click
during
it?
the ultimate with Axe, but still has full effect. Or that you have to precast it because otherwise your ulti is way too cheap. It's a nerf, right? Because otherwise you could ulti for the regular mana cost and then activate Arcane Aura to have the spell amp, quote unquote, on the ult for free.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, you have to precast this if you want the benefits during ult. That makes sense. Okay. The other facet, that took a while. Glacial Guard increases the radius of Crystal Nova by 100 and grants allied heroes in the affected area a physical barrier for 4 seconds. Crystal Maiden receives double the barrier. I haven't tested this if you need to be inside the Nova to get the bonus or if you just cast it, so I'll demo that very quickly right now.
Sounds good, though. They both sound really good.
You have to be inside the Nova yourself. If you cast it on the ground outside, you do not get the bonus. Maybe if you have an allied hero.
Okay, it's less good.
All right, that. Last test. Yeah, okay, you need to be in the ring. Okay.
Cool.
Defensive, though. Yep. Darkseer's int again. Yay! The hero that keeps talking about how other heroes are stupid is actually int.
Has a new innate called Aggrandize. When Darkseer levels up, he restores a percentage of his max HP and mana. Restore percentage equal to 10% plus 2% hero level. Disabled by break. So when you level up, you heal. That's interesting. It feels unbelievably situational because you can't time it basically at all.
And I don't know about the numbers of this. It sounds kind of meh. I don't know, but it's also an innate. You know, you just have it, and his previous innate obviously isn't meaningful anymore, the mental fortitude one.
You're level 10.
I think the numbers of this are too bad. But
you think so? So you're level 10, and that's 30% max HP and max mana, right? That seems pretty good.
I mean, so there's a decent chance this is impactful in a team fight. If an enemy dies and you just get a big burst heal, that's true. I mean, there are situations where this is really cool. I'm thinking mainly in the laning aspect.
It's a weird one though. Either way, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to make this concept consistent. I think is what I'm getting at. It's like, how do you make it good later and also meaningful in laning stage, or how do you make it good in laning stage but not broken later? Right?
Yeah,
it's a bit weird, but.
Dark Willow is now an int hero again. They removed Thorny Thicket facet, thank God. New facet, Shattering Crown, wild. Is Cursed Crown related. While, I thought that said tickling. While ticking, the effect accumulates 35% of any damage dealt to the target by Dark Willow and 15% of the attack damage dealt by allied heroes. When the counter ends, the accumulated damage is dealt to each enemy in the stun radius as magical damage. The shard allows the ability to deal accumulated damage when dispelled. Very interesting. Yep. See, I thought the first time I read this, I think I read it in a cooler way, not like in the voice in my head, but a different mechanic where the damage would be shared. So it would incentivize enemies to group up. It's like a choice. Oh. So either multiple people get stunned, but you share the damage so this guy doesn't potentially die, or this guy takes all the damage. I think that could have been a cooler twist to this. Not that it matters that much. Interesting, though. Yeah. Very interesting.
Okay. Dawnbreaker, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Very reworked here. So Gleaming Hammer is gone. That was the one that allowed you to leave the hammer on.
You're breaking up again, Cinderin? Your mic's like cutting out like early a lot.
That's weird. Okay. Hope this is better now.
Yeah, just stick the mic down your throat.
Yeah, just straight down my throat. Okay. So she has Star Surge, which after the final smash of Starbreaker, all allies within 700 radius gain bonus attack speed per swipe or smash that hit an enemy hero. Starbreaker or Dawnbreaker herself gets about the double amount of allies for 4 seconds. The other one is Trailblazer. Dawnbreaker and her allies gain movement speed when walking on the hammer's fire trail and for after leaving it. So very good for chasing. I like these two conceptually. I think they're interesting in each their own way. Trailblazer seems more like a supporting one, and Star Surge seems more of like a core/carry one. And you still have the original. I forgot what that one's called. The solar
CDR
charged is still there. The CDR when you hit. Now that's my question. I'm going to be comparing these with that because that one to me was the gold standard for Dawn because it allowed you to farm faster because you have your spells more frequently. It allowed you to ult more often because every time you crit, you get 1 second off your ult cooldown. Does either of these hold a candle to that is the question. My gut says no, but I think potentially Starbreaker, the Star Search one, could rival it in the right situations. The Trailblazer one, I don't know if it's good enough,
it's
but
probably
it's
the weaker of the three.
Yeah.
I played a bit today, and this Star Surge one, it was actually hard to tell when it was happening because it has to be on an enemy hero. I thought at first it was creeps as well, which would help with farming, but that's not the case.
Exactly.
The Aghanim Scepter has been completely reworked, which makes me slightly sad, but it's still very good. So it's still Solar Guardian related, and the pulse from Solar Guardian will essentially stay with you as you go into stun people, and it follows you around for 3 seconds, effectively. So you lose the evasion, but you can move around with the pulse while being there yourself instead of, I feel like the other version was just a little bit better, but it's not, you can't compare 1-to-1 at the same time. Because you weren't able to
a big part of why you bought
there.
the other one was the duration and the evasion, and you lost both of those aspects, right?
Yeah. So now doing a healing build
doesn't
feel as good.
But I guess the fact that it follows you is very interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see. My gut says this is just worse almost always than the old Ags, but also because the old Ags you could stop early. You can't do that with the new one. You have to do the channel, which is shorter, but you still have to cast it fully. You can't just drop down early.
Yep.
Dazzle!
Oh my God.
All right, let's skip over everything except his final ability. Valve had the chance. They could have brought back the great ability Weave that everybody used to love and
everyone
never
loves it.
needed to go. But alas, it is still just a little bit of a bonus on his facets. And it's his innate.
How many ultimates do you think he's gotten over the last 10 years?
Oh, I don't know. 4? Which ones can we name? Weave.
Bad
Nothal
Juju.
Projection is the new one. Bad Juju.
Well,
the very old Dazzle had Shallow Grave.
There's been 5 variations of Bad Juju that I would consider new abilities. They just kept the name. So
yeah, let's say 5. I think that's reasonable. Okay, new one, Nothal Projection. I think rather than reading this out, I'll try to explain how it works to the best of my ability. So effectively, you stun yourself, and you project a version of yourself onto the battlefield. It has some cast range. There's a tether between your stunned real you and your clone you that is a ghost. The ghost is untargetable, it's invulnerable, and it can walk through trees, and it can attack, cast abilities, and use your items. So effectively, you just become a clone that you send out. While this is active, Poison Touch hexes, Shallow Grave heals, Shadow Wave has cooldown reduction, and if the main dies, the clone dies, right? And there's a tether. The tether has a range of how long it can stretch. After 1600 range, it starts pulling back toward you. The further you try to go. That's it. So,
and the shard is wild.
Special spell.
The shard is wild. So you don't get the old shard with this, which is the hex, because that's part of this new one. Now with shard, you can cast this ultimate while disabled, and then provides 20% outgoing heal amp for the duration. You can grave yourself essentially, no matter what, right? Other than being silenced.
Yes. Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah.
And this is kind of like a different twist to, we'll get to it eventually, but the old version of Muerta's Aghanim Scepter in a way, except you can use the body.
Parting shot, yeah.
Yeah, so it's same kind of idea, but there's a tether. Tether's pretty long though, so.
Yeah. I think this conceptually is super creative and a really cool spell. I can't tell you whether it's balanced or not, but I think they cooked with this one. I think it's actually super cool.
I will make a very rare prediction for a hero that I do not give a single shit about. This will be the ultimate long-term Cinderin. I think it's a cool idea.
I think so too.
I think it's very
I think
good.
they'll keep this. Yeah.
People will hate it if it's OP though. My God.
Yeah, then they'll nerf it.
It's going to be really annoying.
But yeah.
All right. Where were we? Death Prophet, Universal Hero now. Go ahead, Cinderin.
Yeah, I just want to quickly mention to everybody listening the little bit of weird mic cuts I had. Apparently, Discord with an update randomly switched on automatically detect sensitivity. So, good thing you pointed that out. Now we fixed that. Very dumb. Thanks, Discord. Don't change my settings when you patch, please. Don't do that. It's very dumb. Okay. Death Prophet is now universal. Interesting. We'll see if that makes for some new builds. Because she does have some right-click potential with her shard and facets and stuff. Disruptor gets an additional kinetic fence charge with level 20 talent if he goes that. They're trying to make kinetic fence a thing. Now you can build a triangle. Very cool. And now Thunderstrike also procs effects during to enemies inside kinetic field, even if the initial target's outside of it. We've talked about this before. That was originally like a bug or whatever, and then there's been some things with Thunderstorm. Anyway, it's fine. Not too big there. Doom. The impending Doom that nobody took, because even though it made Doom last longer, you lost damage per tick. No longer loses damage per tick.
Wow.
So that is somewhat interesting. It's better. I don't know if it's good. I feel like whether you take a 14-second Doom and make it into 15 and a half, or you have 2 Gluttony charges, I know what I would choose.
Yeah, a Gluttony sounds great.
Maybe...
DK fire. They finally gave up on the Fire Dragon, so they reworked it completely.
Oh, they did not, Shannon. We'll get to. Actually, you know what? I want to mention this right now. Okay. Dragon Knight had the Fire Dragon facet that gave cleave, and everybody and their mother was taking this. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Oh, okay, we should rework this." They broke Dragon Knight even more. He's the best hero in the patch right now. He has 61.4% win rate in 50,000 games with the Fire Dragon facet.
Okay.
The Frost Dragon facet has 50%.
So when I said they gave up,
has 50%.
When I said they gave up on the Fire Dragon, I meant more the cleave. Now they've replaced it with something else.
They gave up on trying to balance him, Shannon.
The good news is
accepted this hero is fucked. Okay.
Did you even remember there's a third facet? So Corrosive Dragon had its time in the sun, the old one, right? And Fire Dragon has been mostly the one that people have used. The third one has never been a thing, has it?
The Froston?
Yeah.
No.
It barely exists.
Do you remember he had it? Yeah, I do remember that dragon had 3 forms, okay? I remember.
This Fire Dragon, basically when you're ulted, Dragon Tail becomes AoE, and Worm's Wrath, which is the passive, attacks deal bonus up to 40 bonus magic damage to enemies with each hit, which is crazy, and increases all AoE effects by up to 100.
This hero is so broken.
Can you tell me?
It's funny because when I read the changelog, you don't really know. This is why stats can be important. When you read this changelog, did it stand out to you? And you're like, okay, Dragon Knight's the best hero in Dota, because it didn't to me.
No. I mean, I thought this attack thing was really good, but other than that...
He loses cleave. I don't know how good the magic damage is. This is insane right now. He's getting nerfed today. There's no way.
So, what is the AoE effect that he would buy? Anything? Or is it just his regular abilities?
So, I mean, yeah, if you bought anything that had AoE, but generally Dragon Knight doesn't really do that. Like Meteor Hammer or Shiva's or something. It just sounds weird, but... It's just bigger breath fire, and it's bigger, or bigger breathe fire, it's bigger dragon tail, it's all of it, right? So correct me if I'm wrong here, but it says all AoE effects. Maybe this is part of why it's broken. Maybe this applies to the dragon tail when you're in dragon form, so that it has 275 radius.
That's what I assumed when I read it. Yeah.
If it does synergize with that, that is ridiculous. You know,
what else is it synergizing with? Breathe fire.
Fireball.
That's
Fireball
true.
and breathe fire, right?
Yeah, but those are.
I don't know.
Yeah,
anyway, this hero is busted right now. If you guys want quick MMR, pick this before they fix it. You are going to win a lot of games right now with this hero. It seems crazy stuff. Strong hero. Green Dragon has been changed, so it makes all your abilities physical damage. In addition to what it also did before. So it allows for creative Dragon Knight builds that are more minus armor focused, or picking it with heroes that provide minus armor, like running Green Dragon with Slardar, for example, could be potentially an interesting strategy where Dragon Knight hits mega hard with everything he has in his arsenal, including Fireball and Breathe Fire, etc.
And then he has a third facet. I don't know if we mentioned that, but
yeah, he has the Frost Dragon facet, which, much to my surprise when I read it, actually has higher win rate than Corrosive Dragon.
Really?
But both of those are sitting at about 11% lower than Fire Dragon, so don't pick those. Yep. We should also mention that his Elder Dragon form got back some of its old aspects, so you get Cleave in Dragon form again. That's not tied to the Fire facet, so if you're Frost Dragon or you're Green Dragon, you still have Cleave now in Dragon form. And it applies the effects of Worm's Wrath, regardless of which facet you chose. So that's also interesting. Yeah. All right. That's DK. Strong hero right now. He will be nerfed very soon, no doubt. They never let a hero sit over 60%. Never. Absolutely never. Okay. Let's skip Drow, not too big. Earth Spirit, Boulder Smash no longer deals bonus damage to creeps. The Clockwork treatment will be harder to farm on Earth Spirit. He did get an interesting change on the 10 talent. He actually has the rolling boulder distance now. A weaker version of the 21, of course, but having that as a choice on 10 is interesting for support Earth in particular. For more movement and more initiation range, but it costs you your spell amp. So, I don't know.
Is he winking in his icon? I didn't really notice.
Kinda, yeah. A little bit.
Very important.
We can move down. Ember Spirit, Searing Chains is back to hitting 2 targets instead of 3.
God,
so that's the old one.
Remember when we read that the first time? Like, they're changing this, surely. Like, what the fuck were they thinking?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Flame Guard does a bit more damage, and Fire Remnant now has 0 cast point. And when I read this, I was like, we're back to former glory with Ember. But guess what? It did not reduce the cooldown. So yes, you can cast your Fire Remnant instantly, but the cooldown is still half a second, so you can't Spirit Bomb. Which was the old Ember where you would just rapidly slam 3 remnants out and then burst. You still can't do that.
Yeah, it's for the best, I think.
It's still better for traveling, because now you can throw a remnant instantly when you get jumped. So without a doubt, a really feels good thing. And I personally think it's important that Fire Remnant has 0 cast time. I think that's, to me, that is a big part of Ember's identity, is that this is instant. I think that's very good that they did that. Can nerf something else if he's too strong, fine, but Fire Remnant should be instant cast.
Enchantress Impetus no longer does 2x. I didn't even know that it did. Why would it? It was pure damage.
Creeps
why
removed.
Would it need to? That's so weird.
So that Ench can farm, because everybody needs to farm, Shannon. That's Dota.
That's true.
Okay. Faceless
Void
wrote a book about Time Zone. You can read it if you want, guys. Time Zone changes a lot of stuff. The primary thing that I want to highlight here is that when you're inside Chronos Time Zone, sorry, that is a spell. It's not called Chronosphere when you do that one. Cooldowns accelerate 4 times faster. So there's some interesting synergies that you can build with Void where your teammates get massive value out of this.
Get some chakra magic Time Zone together?
I tested this with Bristleback. During Time Zone, you can cast Quill Spray 7 times.
Pretty good.
Or 6 or 7. Maybe it was 6, but yeah, pretty fast. Chronosphere no longer suspends time dilation and freezes enemy ability and cooldowns. That is now on Time Zone.
Can I make a very important suggestion? I think the debuff that's on enemies should be called jet lag. Cinder, what do you think?
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's coming next patch for sure.
There you go.
Get on it.
Freebie.
All right. Inkswell on Grimstroke, his shard has been changed. It no longer applies a strong dispel. Now it applies a weak dispel when you cast it. So it instantly dispels something, but not stuns. And then it does more damage and more healing. So this is just a reimagination of this. Yeah, the strong dispel was probably a bit dumb. This one's still kind of cool. I think this is a good shard regardless. And arguably easier to use because you're using it like you would normal Inkswell. You're just casting it on someone when they're silenced or rooted or whatever, and they get up and running. So I kind of like this change. I think it's okay. Hoodwink loses tree bounce trick shot. Goodbye. Instead, she now has hip shot. Half cooldown on sharpshooter, and you turn faster, so just better. But you get less damage, less debuff duration, and less max wind-up time. So it's also faster to finish the sharpshooter. So a lot of things about it are better, but it loses 33%, 25% max damage and debuff duration instead. Interesting.
I think it's interesting how that works with the Ags now, right?
Yeah, it works with that too. Yeah.
Kind of cool.
I think at a pro level, people are probably mainly going to take Go Nuts because it allows you to land your combo from further away. But we'll see. They took Tree Bounce Trick Shot because it was insane in laning. Now you're going to truly choose your style of Hoodwink. Like, are you an ult focused Hoodwink or are you everything else Hoodwink? I think it's okay.
Yep,
it's fine. Huskar gets a new facet. He lost Bloodbath and Nothal Transfusion, so the one that he still has is the one literally everybody was taking in Pro Dota. And guess what? They will continue to, but for the sake of it, we will mention that he has Cauterize. Consumes 30% of current health to apply a basic dispel. Then after 3 seconds, you restore the 30% health and an additional 5% of max HP for each debuff you dispelled. This sounds like a card in a card game. Not.
This
I don't
sounds
know,
okay. I don't know.
situation.
I'm not going to compare it to the other one. You actually think so? I think this is good. I think this is actually good.
But instead of incendiary,
no,
though?
I'm not saying instead of anything. I'm saying this is good though. Surely.
Oh, sure. It's good, but it's not incendiary, and therefore it's
okay.
That's
fine. You're saying it's super situational. I don't think it is.
I think it is because you need to justify it over incendiary.
All right, fuck you.
I mean, that's why it's situational. It's a good facet, but the other one is very good.
Fine.
So, like, when would you take this?
Fine.
Okay.
I thought you meant like conceptually, it didn't make any sense that this could ever be good someday. That's what it sounded like. Yeah. Real hater. Oh my god, Invoker.
Yeah. All right. Time for the real book. I'll try to summarize this. I actually did some relatively extensive testing of this yesterday on my stream, so I've got you covered. So Invoker at the beginning of the game chooses one of 3 facets. He's now int, so you don't have the whole universal thing going on anymore. You're either a Quas Invoker, a Wex Invoker, or an Exort Invoker. You still have all the spells. You can still invoke everything, but the spells that are buffed by your Scepter and Shard are decided at the beginning of the game. So you need to commit to a path, essentially. Yeah. The Quas path, your Scepter, gives you AoE Ghost Walk. So allies that come in connection with a 600 radius around you fade after half a second, and then they're 20-second invisible. Think Moonlight Shadow. But they also get the other bonuses of Ghost Walk. So they also get move speed, and they get health regen. And mana regen, I think. I think they get all of them. Ice Wall is your shard when you're a Quas Invoker, which makes it freeze targets. So after they stay in the Ice Wall for 3 seconds, they get rooted and take 300 bonus damage and makes the wall thick. So as a rule of thumb, if you want to remember what your Quas Invoker does, I made the memory for me ass. It's the Ass Invoker because Quas kind of sounds like ass, and the Ice Wall is thick. Okay, good. So that's the Ass Invoker.
Okay, good.
Then we've got Wex Invoker. He gets Aghanim's Scepter upgrade on Tornado, makes it Twisters. So you send out the big tornado, and after it leaves, in its trail, this like little tornadoes spinning that deal damage, and deals half damage to creeps.
Right?
It's the full path. There's like they continue along the path. So if you tornado someone and you can keep them in the area afterwards, they take more damage because they stay in the Twisters. And the EMP is his shard, and that's the old shard, or rather, the same shard as before, the one where EMP pulls.
Hate that one.
And burns, and does more damage than before.
Synergizes with Tornado.
Or does more damage. Yeah, synergizes with Tornado. And then finally, I actually didn't make a name for this one.
Wait, what was the name for the Wex?
That's what I'm saying. I didn't make a name for the
that
Wex
one you
one.
didn't. Okay.
I think in my mind I made the Ass Invoker, and then I didn't have more names left.
That's a lot of creative genius.
No, it got confusing. We'll get to that. I actually got confused by the Ass Invoker myself, because now we're going to Exort. So Chaos Meteor gets... Oh, actually, there's other things about this when you choose your path. I just mentioned the Axe and the Shards. Specific spells do specific extra things. So when your Ass Invoker, Cold Snap heals you when you hit. When your Wex Invoker, Alacrity gives attack range. And when your Exort Invoker, Meteor gets bigger radius and more travel distance. These meteors are big. They're fat balls. That's why the Ass thing doesn't really work, because the meteors are also thick.
Well, ass and balls. That's fine.
Right. That's good. Okay, so Ass Invoker is blue. The Exort Invoker is balls, and then by that logic, the
Taint?
the pink the pink one is the tits, right? So that has to be the good build.
I was gonna go a little more PC with Taint, but you know,
it's a good thing, right? If something is the tits, that means it's great.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, if it turns out Wex is the good one, that checks out.
Nah, right. I'm gonna go with Taint because the EMP thing is so annoying. Tits aren't annoying. The Taint can be because of chafing.
Understood. That makes a lot of sense. This is I'm so happy we have this podcast together. Okay, Sunstrike. Scepter grants you Cataclysm, but only when you're Agent of Galeron, which is Exort Invoker. And also the Shard. So Sunstrike is both Scepter and Shard for Exort Invoker. The Shard one makes Sunstrike spawn a Forge Spirit whenever it hits a hero. If you have Cataclysm and Shard and you hit multiple heroes, that means you spawn multiple Forge Spirits in the chaos of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Okay, so a lot of shit here. There's way more values, like value tweaks, numbers, etc. on his spells. This is a book by itself. I personally think this might be one of the most nerfed heroes of the entire patch, because it feels like no matter which path you choose, you're worse than Elitist was, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. And ultimately, I guess what people should discuss or decide for themselves is whether they think this is a cooler design that you specialize at the beginning of the game.
Way cooler.
And if so, if that's cooler, it's just a numbers game. Then you need to figure out how to make them all good, right? Or reasonable. And then you can balance
the thing
numbers
that always kind of bothered me about Invoker from a design perspective is that you have so many spells, which is cool, and being able to execute them at a high rate is difficult, but the spells are very boring, right? They're very basic in a lot of ways because they have to be, because you have 10 fucking spells. But now you choose at the beginning of the game which 2 spells essentially are going to be cooler versions. And that's what this is. I think this is really cool. Like from a spectator standpoint, seeing an entire team that's Ghostwalk, that's fucking awesome. You know? The Sunstrike stuff speaks for itself. Fuck EMP, but the tornadoes are cute. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, awesome.
I kind of agree. But I think it's, as long as you can have all the spells in all forms and that all the spells are still meaningful, then I don't mind that individual aspects of them are better. But yeah, it's going to be tough to balance this so all 3 versions feel good, because ultimately what that then comes down to is the base spells that you're upgrading with each path need to be good enough in their own right that upgrading them is meaningful. And that's my kind of problem when I read this. I think Ass Invoker is not only ass because of Quas and Icewall being thick. I think it's ass because it's ass. Okay, but maybe the Ghostwalk thing is actually really good, and at pro level it becomes cool. But the Icewall shard I think is very bad. The EMP shard is infinitely better in my opinion. And I think the Sunstrike shard also sounds pretty bad. So, like, how do you make these concepts where you have to make shards and scepters specifically for multiple different avenues of Invoker and then make them all feel meaningful? I think that's the challenge. And I think with this one, they're trying it, but I don't think they've hit it because it's so difficult to do first try. I just don't think the scepters and shards on all of them are good. So, but yeah, it's cool. It's a rethinking of the hero.
Very cool.
It's massive.
Good lord, that really is a book.
Io gets more, no longer does damage with Tether, but now you do a lot of damage with Shard when you have Tether. So the Tether deals 120 DPS when you have Shard, and it heals 50% of the damage dealt to Io, which in turn also heals your teammate. and it's considered a pseudo lifesteal, which means it uses spell lifesteal and healing amp, but it does not have creep penalty. So that's interesting. Okay. Jakiro.
Oh boy.
I think this one is going to be very strong. The second one, that is. The first facet, Twin Terror. You have less damage penalty from your secondary, from both attacks from your heads, and it gets better per level of ult. However, the second one I think is just much better for the most part. Icebreaker. So Ice Path duration is 6 seconds at all levels, up from 3 plus 0.5 per level. When it expires, it detonates, dealing additional damage and stunning for an additional half a second. And while the Ice Path is up, you can stop it prematurely. So effectively, this means if you have a level 4 Ice Path before, this level 4 Ice Path did 50 damage and stunned for 2 seconds. Now this level 4 Ice Path does 275 damage and stuns for 2.5 seconds, because you let it hit, then when the stun duration is about to end, you snap it for the secondary proc. I think this is very strong and will be very favored in pro play, because you can strategize around it, you can build lineups, it's extremely reliable, and it's very powerful in its own right as a spell in general. Like Ice Path was always a good spell. Mm-hmm. Icebreaker sounds very, very strong. So
and in Pubs,
I think
Twin Terror is going to be awesome, Cinder, because people love doing right-click Jakiro.
That sounds absolute trash. Take the other one and do the right thing. All right. Maybe honestly the Twin Terror isn't that bad because of how much more damage you have in lane. Like maybe it's better than I think to have this more attack damage.
Only time will tell.
It's quite a lot more damage.
What was that facet? Not to get on this again, but there was a facet that we thought people kept misclicking. Oh, it was the lion one.
I mean,
anytime there's these giant patches, like there's going to be things that we think are ass or tits or taints or whatever, and people are going to think it's whatever's considered good, even though tits.
I don't know. I still saw people taking the lion one, even in pro play, weeks in, months in, and I just didn't get it. I still think the essence one was better, the monitoring one. Anyway, whatever. Just going to quickly mention Jug gets 100 cast range on Omnislash. That's the only thing I'll say there, but that's quite meaningful actually for that hero.
Oh, this is cool.
Coddle gets a new innate. Keeper cannot go below 75 mana. Interesting. Okay.
That's cool.
Kez gets reworked. He's still not in captain's mode though, and like I said to my stream yesterday, nobody knows what the fuck this hero does. So when you rework all of his things, everybody still doesn't know what this hero does. So if you're a Kez enthusiast, I believe the hero has been nerfed. A lot of the numbers are worse, but he has 2 new facets. One of them, you do more damage on the first attack after switching, and you gain movement speed after switching to Sai, and you get more damage when you switch to Katana. On the other one, you trigger a Shoto Sai mark from invisibility. You do more damage when you do that. And you get, when you trigger a Shoto Sai mark, you reduce the cooldown of the 2 stances by a percentage. I'll just be completely honest with you, Shannon. I've played a good chunk of games with and against this hero.
Yep.
I still don't fully get how it works.
He's very complicated, yeah.
And I have read his spells, and I know what they do, kind of.
Is there one spell?
There's just so much going on.
Is there one spell for him that you feel like is just really broken? I can't tell if I'm just really bad.
That's
one
true.
In particular.
That's worth mentioning. So I think the one most people would have picked was Raptor Dance, which is the one where you gained immunity and then you healed a ton. That one got nerfed, so I think that's worth mentioning. A lot of his spells got changed in what they do, essentially, but I think Raptor Dance probably the biggest one. It follows global lifesteal rules, so lifesteals way less from creeps. And then it doesn't give you debuff immunity and a hard dispel, but it gives a basic dispel and 0.1 second invulnerability on cast, and magic damage immunity for the duration. So no hard dispel and no debuff immunity means you can deal with him a lot better. So that got nerfed a lot. And Falcon Rush, you can now change target while rushing, but it has shorter range, and the numbers are worse. So,
okay,
yeah. But there's so much going on with this hero, and the reason I don't put in a ton of effort he's not in captain's mode, so he's not going to appear.
He's
in
going to
Pro
get a
Dota
lot
at
more
all.
changes like this,
And
probably.
he will be changed a ton still. And yeah, it's.
I mean, I expect him to be by TI though, right? I think last year was
Probably.
like the first time that they have come out with a hero, and then wait, did they come out with a hero? When Ringmaster
Before
came
last
later. Wait. Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
Wait, when did Ringmaster come out? How long has it been? That was before TI. No.
Did he come? He came out before TI.
Was it before
Right?
TI?
Or? He came out before TI, but he
Yeah.
wasn't in CM. And the reason the whole stage was
Yeah.
circus themed and stuff was Ringmaster inspired, right?
Yeah, and he wasn't even.
But he wasn't in the
Now I
game.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first
Okay.
times where they've come out with a hero and it wasn't ready for TI. So I think this will go back to normal where you will eventually be.
But I will say TLDR on Kez, without truly understanding all the intricacies of this hero, it still has the same concepts. The spells still do essentially the same stuff with like silence and slow and lifesteal and all this. But numbers have been tweaked, and especially Raptor Dance got nerfed. I think that's the good TLDR here. That he can still do a lot of the same stuff, but he's weaker. Okay. Legion Commander, if you take Spoils of War, which is the one where your allies get bonus damage when you win a duel, everybody who helped assist, if you take that one, now they also get press the attack when you win the duel. It's actually quite big to press the attack on all of your allies in a team fight if you duel someone.
Yeah,
So,
but I think the bigger deal is you no longer get press the attack on victory by default anymore without this facet.
yeah. So that's
pretty
true.
big
That's the
deal.
downside. If you take the other one, you don't get press from that. Honestly, I'm cool with that. I think it was kind of maybe a bit too crazy that you got it regardless, and now you make this choice, and then you can buff her in other ways for the other facet if you want, if it's too weak. Leshrac, AoE per intelligence increased from 0.4 to 0.7. Okay. On his innate, worth mentioning. That's a lot.
Gleipnir time, Leshrac. Let's go.
Yeah. Lich.
Oh, boy.
Lich,
Yeah.
didn't you enjoy being a good hero for a while? Let's nerf you in 7 different ways in this patch. Less cast range on shield. Shorter duration. Sinister Gaze does not allow you to chain spells anymore. Ice Spire takes damage when you hit it yourself with Chain Frost. Chain Frost bounces a shorter distance. Your level 25 unlimited bounces does more damage on Chain Frost instead of bounces. The biggest one here out of all of them is that you need Scepter to cast spells while channeling Gaze. That was why this hero was good, was that you could cast your spells during Sinister Gaze. Now that you can no longer do that, I think Lich is a lot worse. A lot.
I think they overdid it. And then for the pub games,
I think so too.
The 25 talent, especially turbo games, that's a big deal. The Chain Frost not being unlimited anymore. Crazy.
The Chain Frost incremental damage could get kind of crazy though.
It could.
If it bounces enough. But yeah, it can only bounce up to 10 times, right? I agree. I think this hero got binned more than necessary, but it's pretty standard when a hero is very popular in pubs and just high rank that it can get multiple nerfs at once. I think this is too much. Invoker, I would argue, again, hard to say. I think he got nerfed too much, but it's so hard to wrap your head around. And maybe there's a build that's really strong.
So
okay, Lifestealer.
Let me do
one of the
Lifestealer
biggest
since
winners.
it's my boy,
Okay.
Cinderin. Okay. So they got rid of the unfettered facet because it was super situational. I think only time I saw it picked in pro games was against Beastmaster, basically.
Okay.
Would you agree with that? I mean, either way, it was not picked all too often until they finally started buffing enough, and it was just situational. So now you get Rage, the old-fashioned Rage, no matter what facet you take, and the 2 facets are as such. So Flesh Feast, you get max HP per hero kill increased by a dramatic amount, so it goes from 15 up to 55, depending on the level of your ult. And then this one's really weird. Open Wounds cooldown is reset if the hero dies while affected by open wounds. Pretty strong. And the second one, which I have tested, Gore Storm, when you infest first of all, this allows you to infest Ancient Creeps, which is not a default ability anymore, which is kind of a big deal. And when you consume a creep, meaning when you jump out, it drenches affected enemies in blood for 3 seconds, and it deals 25% of the host's remaining health over the duration. So Ancient Creeps obviously will have the bigger of HP there.
Yeah.
For the Aghanim Scepter build, it'll deal 25% of the damage that you have done to that person while you are inside of them, which is pretty crazy. These are, I mean, just objectively better in almost every way of the old version.
They seem very good, yeah.
So, stamp of approval.
Lifestealer is one of the biggest, highest win rate heroes of the patch right now. So
good.
And Flesh Feast has better win rate than Gorestorm, but Gorestorm is also high. So just seems like a very strong hero right now as of this recording.
How high are we talking?
Win rate 57% with Flesh Feast and about 55% with Gorestorm.
That means nerfs.
And this is a big sample size. It's tons of games. So wow.
Sad.
Seems quite strong. Okay, Lena. Speaking of heroes that get the axe. Fiery Soul no longer is upgraded with Aghanim Shard, so you don't get all of that extra damage on all your spells anymore. Instead, the shard is now on Laguna Blade, so you gain 75% of the damage Laguna Blade deals is converted to a barrier for Lena. This used to be a level 25 talent in a stronger version. And in return, that 25 talent has now been changed from 125% barrier to 60% combustion overheat damage. Flame Cloak lost a second of duration. Fiery Soul does less movement speed. Overall, Lena got hit hard. She is now sitting at a 44% win rate with her best facet, which is still Thermal Runway. A lot of people will say deserved. I am kind of in the Lich boat with this one. I think this was maybe too much. And there was a more elegant way of doing this, but she'll get buffed again, so don't worry. Lion Mana Drain no longer damages, instantly kills illusions.
Good.
Fuck hate this.
Fuck you, Lion. Fuck Lion players.
And this is also going to be on Pugna, by the way. I'll just say that right now. So drains no longer one-shot illusions. I feel like that was a key part of the mechanics that this does, or did. I can understand why you removed it, because people thought it was kind of dumb that these heroes had hard counter stuff against those specific heroes. So I understand it. But this has been a part of Lion and Pugna forever. I actually think this goes back all the way to, I don't know when in Dota 1, right? It used to one-shot illusions forever, I think.
Cinderant,
so
can we just make a petition to remove Mana Drain as an ability entirely? It feels bad. No. Fuck this ability. It feels
great to use. I love this.
I don't give a shit what you think, okay? Don't listen to this idiot, Valve. Just remove this ability.
The way petitions work is that we both need to sign them. No, I'm not signing it.
I think most people would want this ability removed.
Okay? I disagree.
Chat, I'm going to do a poll right now. We're doing a poll.
Okay,
you can continue on, by the way.
I'm for removing it if he gets something better instead. I mean, sure.
Well, yeah. What do you mean? You think I'm just going to remove the ability? He has 3 fucking abilities? Of course.
No, I'm saying you're going to come up with a third ability that's worse than Mana Drain.
No, it can be better. It's not about it being good or bad. It's about the feeling you get playing. It's fucking miserable. It feels bad.
I'm very curious to see the answers.
The reason,
run it.
Hold on,
run it.
This is like in Artifact. I know nobody played that game. Cheating Death was such a shit card. Doesn't matter if it was good or bad. Absolutely. It feels bad to play against, and this is the same thing. Okay, remove Mana Drain.
Because Cheating Death was a dumb design, and this isn't.
That's incorrect.
Understood.
Incorrect.
All right, moving on.
Don't disappoint. Don't disappoint, chat.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Insanely overwhelming majority says no so far, Shannon.
Yeah, you guys are morons. Got some
catching up to do.
You guys
it's
are morons.
About 75-25.
You guys are morons. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So 3/4 of people think you're an idiot. That's probably accurate, actually.
We can make the comeback here. Come on. We can do it. Vote Kamala.
Thanks for immediately proving that you're an idiot. All right. Gift Bearer. Lone Druid's Innate allows him, or his Spirit Bearer gets a copy of his neutral item, which has an independent cooldown. So whatever you choose for yourself, you have to get the same one for the bear. Interesting.
I think it would be too much to have to craft your own items for the bear. That's one downside that we didn't mention is when you're in the middle of a game, like having to craft it. I had to close. I mean, I know it's the first day, but there's a team fight coming. Like, I can't be bothered to choose right now. I'll do it after. So you go in weaker because you don't have the time. You know what I mean?
I will say that happened to me yesterday during a fight where it's like, oh, I actually just unlocked by chance an item while you're in a skirmish or in a fight. Previously, you would just very quickly open up the neutral item when it dropped and then upgrade it while you're in the middle of whatever. Now, if it happens during a fight that you get a new one, it's just hard to process that while you're fighting. Skill issue, though.
All right, looks like you did, in fact, win the vote, Cinderin. I've lost a lot of respect for the chat here.
77% say no to remove Mana Drain, Shannon.
I feel like this is not an accurate stat, all right? This is polling in an area that is very pro-Cinderin, and it's not actually
I want
how
you to
feel.
remember that this is your channel, so we're streaming it on your channel where, if anything, the bias should be for you.
It's
so
5
it's even worse.
It's 5 in the morning, so it's Europeans. They're going to associate more with you, okay? Not this dumb fucking fat American.
Oh, so disliking Mana Drain is an American quality.
Yes.
All right,
it's
horse.
Logical.
Horse. Lycan.
Okay, go ahead.
Speaking of horse,
yep, go ahead.
This is one of my most hated facets in all of Dota. The Alpha Wolves. It's so dumb. You can hate Mana Drain all you want. Alpha Wolves is infinitely worse. Do a poll on this. Should Alpha Wolves be removed?
There is a difference. There's a difference.
Let's see, Shannon. Let's see if Alpha Wolves should be removed.
You guys are not understanding something. It's not about being good or bad, strong or weak. It's about the conceptual aspect of the fucking spell. Conceptually,
yes, this is a conceptually extremely stupid facet, and
how?
I hate it.
How?
The Alpha. Have you played against this shit?
Okay, it's very powerful.
It's terrible.
What's terrible about it?
It's stupid.
What's terrible about it?
That there's no counterplay. It's stupid.
So make it worse.
Yeah, that's what they did. By 2 seconds on Hightail, it's still stupid.
Do you not? Okay, I feel like you're being very obtuse right now on purpose. Is it for content? Do you not understand what I'm saying?
I'm serious. This facet, if for anyone who's on your stream right now that has watched mine, they can attest to this. Whenever I play against Lycan, I laugh and I'm like, this is so stupid. Every time I'm against Alpha Wolves, okay?
Again, you're talking about power level.
It's just dumb.
It's power level. You're talking about the balance. Okay, this is a big horse.
I'm talking about the facet itself.
Have I been just doing too much game design that I can't think like a normal person anymore?
Okay, all right. You know what? I'll agree with you to the extent of having a facet that makes the wolves more powerful is fine.
Yes.
So yes, I guess in theory, okay. Then you could also say Mana Drain could be fine if it was less powerful.
No, because conceptually, I'm against the idea of removing mana in that aspect, where that's literally the only thing you're doing is channeling it. That's your whole job, is to slow an enemy and mana drain them. I think that's a shit mechanic that shouldn't be in the game.
Okay.
Having an extra level on wolves is cool.
Fine. Okay, I agree. I actually agree. Alpha Wolves is fine. The way they work is stupid, and they didn't change the way they work.
Fine.
So
good.
Okay, fair enough. Shannon, I'm glad we could figure this out together.
I'm out of water. God damn it, Cinderin.
Mana Drain is staying.
Yeah, I know. It's only been 20 years.
Okay, Magnus. This is when I read this, I was like, this guy's a big winner. So 2 new facets. One is called Eternal Empowerment. It means Empower is always enabled on you. All of your subsequent attacks increase your self bonus by a percentage up to a maximum of 25%. Lasts for 10 seconds. Each stack refreshes duration. And the bonus per hit and the max bonus scale with the level of Empower. So if you're taking this and you're playing Carry Mag, as long as you're hitting stuff, you have constant Empower and don't need to cast it. The other one is Diminishing Return, which is effectively the old Shard. So it increases the max level of Shockwave by 1, and then level 5 Shockwave makes the Shockwave return after reaching its max distance, traveling 200 units further, and dealing 50% of the ability damage on its way back, just as a facet. And now the Shard is connected with Skewer, where it does what the old Skewer did with bonus damage with trees and cliffs, is now on the Shard, and it's more. I think this is really strong when I read this. I'm like, Magnus is just better, right?
Yeah, I think it's
Magnus is sitting at 51% win rate with Diminishing Return and 51% with Eternal Empowerment. Basically no difference. So not too high, but yeah, I do think these facets are very good when I read them.
And we should mention they got rid of reverse polarity.
Yeah, because it was dumb.
Very controversial. I feel like they could have left it in as a meme, you know? It is funny.
Sure. I guess so, yeah.
What's the downside, exactly?
Marcy has 3 new facets. She lost her old ones. She now has Buddy System. When she's bodyguarded, Marcy and her partner share 100% of health healed by this ability with each other. So a lot more healing with Bodyguard. The other one is Rebound on Pick Me Up. Rebound adds an alt cast, which allows Marcy to bring the target ally with her to her final destination. The ally deals 25% of the rebound damage to enemies on landing. You cannot rebound people that are rooted or leashed.
This was am I mistaken? This was the old shard, basically?
Pretty much.
That everyone hated? Because it was so hard to use, right? Okay.
Yeah. And then the third one is also Rebound connected. Fleeting Fury. If you have Unleash leveled, when you land from Rebound, you get a short Fury combo of 3 attacks. And if Unleash is already active, you extend its duration by 3 seconds whenever you rebound. And if you have Ags, this does not count as a silence combo, the 3-hit one. In addition to that, Marcy now gets an active component on her courier, which allows her to instantly teleport it to her every 4 minutes. This is so random.
It's awesome.
And just, I don't know, it's just really random.
That's so cool.
I think somebody at Valve likes Marcy and doesn't like couriers, and therefore they just did this so they can get items. Very, very weird. Okay. Medusa has a new facet called Undulation, which I took a while to wrap my head around when or how this would be good. But we'll try to explain it.
I would love to know, because it sounds awful.
So this locks your movement speed at 310 at the beginning of the game. So it's 35 more than your base move speed, but it cannot be modified. So you can't go above and you can't go below, except when you cast Stone Gaze, which gives you 50% move speed. So you go to 465. Or if you're going downstream in the water, then you're also going faster.
Okay.
Aside from that, you're 310. There is some theory crafting that this could be interesting on support Medusa, because you can run this and then not buy boots.
Yeah.
And you cannot be slowed in fights, so your Stone Gaze will be very reliable, because you can get in and land it. You're effectively basically hasted with Stone Gaze and unslowable. But for all intents and purposes, I feel like support Medusa would want to buy Arcane Boots, and therefore she would have the move speed from those boots anyway, so she would be faster in all other situations than when she would be slowed by enemies. I don't know. I find this one super weird. Maybe there's going to be some cool build.
Like Swift Blink won't give you move speed, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't give you move speed to Swift Blink either.
How is this remotely good?
I don't know.
The idea of not needing to buy boots, like the Centaur, it's obviously extremely powerful, but 310 move speed.
Yeah, it sounds pretty ass. Anyway, Split Shot's been changed with Scepter. That now gives you the old 25 talent of applies modifiers, and it gives you 1 additional target, and now Scepter no longer upgrades Mystic Snake. And the 25 talent Split Shot uses modifiers has been replaced with plus 40 intelligence. Whoop-de-doo. Okay. Terrible. Next, Meepo, one of the biggest winners of the patch, Suns Fan TV, has lost Packrat, but he has got Codependent, which is very strong, and I think will get nerfed. All Meepos have a stackable aura that increases nearby Meepos' attack speed by 7% and armor by 2 in a 600 radius. This facet is currently sitting at a win rate of 58.5% win rate. Second highest win rate hero behind Dragon Knight. The next facet, More Meepo, has 7.3% less win rate than Codependent, which is generally a sign that the other facet is too strong.
Which one was Packrat again? Is that the neutral item?
That was the one where the item that you had in your neutral item slot was active on all Meepos.
Oh, that was such a cool concept. I'm sad
and you could put any item in your neutral item slot. So they did that with like Santanyasha to give all Meepos status resist and stuff. I personally thought that was a kind of cool idea.
So was that not... I mean, I know Meepo's not the most picked, but was that not popular at all from the facet?
It was pretty popular, at least in pro play. But I think they might have removed it because they felt like it's too difficult to balance around. Maybe. I don't know. Okay, Mirana is agility, Shannon. She's back, baby. She has 2 new facets. One of them is called Leaps and Bounds. When you land on Leap, you root targets around you. Super random. Don't know why she has this. And the other one is Starstruck. Starstorm's second meteor deals more damage and it blinds. So the second meteor does 100% damage instead of 80. Or now it will be 60 if you don't have the facet. And then the blind lasts 3.5 seconds plus 0.5 per level, and it's a 60% blind. This makes Mirana an insane trading hero in lane, because you can just Starstorm the enemy support and hit them, and they can't hit you back. And you do double Starstorm damage plus blind. I think this is good when I read it.
Are you going to miss Solar Flare?
No, I never really liked that.
You get a little bit of that with Moonlight Shadow now, right?
Yeah, that's true. It gives some damage, but just for yourself.
I miss the old Aghanim Scepter. I don't know why. Like the old, you buy Blink, you remember that? And the Starstorm.
The one that like auto cast Starstorms around you?
Yeah, I enjoyed that one quite a bit. Haven't really liked her since they got rid of it. But I agree. The second, I don't understand the second facet at all.
I have no idea what they're trying. It also has way less win rate. I think it's 4% lower. Starstorm, the Starstruck one has a solid win rate of over 50%. Leaps and Bounds is like 47 or something. So early days, obviously take everything with a grain of salt. Certain heroes, when patches come out, are always broken because people are bad at playing the map and stuff. So generally, whenever we get a massive overhaul, a lot of the time Zoo is just better.
Her innate Healing Lotus effectiveness syndrome up from 20% to 50%.
That is actually quite a lot.
A lot. That's over double.
When she uses a Lotus, she heals a million.
Crazy.
All right, Monkey King Simeon Stride has been reworked. It increases the max level of Tree Dance to 5, and when you have level 5 Tree Dance, the cooldown is 0. So now you need to level up Simeon Stride all the way for that to work.
What do you think of the 5 level skills we've been seeing?
Like, I'm okay with it.
Apparently you hated the Lycan one, but then you came around once you understood finally what I was talking about.
Shannon, now you're putting words in my mouth.
No, you put the words in your own mouth.
I don't conceptually hate having 5 levels. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
I just don't like the way Alpha Wolves work, Shannon. That's all. Okay. I don't mind 5 level spells. Yeah. Okay. Morphling gets rework on Flow. Flow was the one that gave you more cooldown reduction. Now instead, it gives you Spell Amp per 4 agility. So apparently there's a build you can run right now where you go E-Blade Dagon on Morph, and then you max out Flow and go high agi, and you do a lot of damage with your Dagon combo. Don't know if it's good. In addition, I guess the main thing to highlight here is Adaptive Strike has been merged into one ability, so you no longer have the agi and the strength version. And the Adaptive Strike always knocks back enemies. It knocks them back further based on your strength. And it no longer stuns by default. So you have to have more strength for it to stun, right? I think. No, it stuns if you have Flow. So if you have Ebb, you no longer have a stun as Morphling. That is how it is. Morphling is currently sitting at an atrocious win rate of 43.5% with Ebb and 34.5% with Flow.
Fuck.
In 9,000 games, Flow sucks ass. Confirmed.
Are you sad about this? I feel like this hero has been overplayed the last 2 years. It should be dead for a little bit.
I'm not a proponent of the whole heroes should have down times. I think if every hero is playable all the time, that's good.
That's literally not possible.
I think this hero's design right now is just all out of whack. Like, I don't understand what's going on.
Well, I feel like this hero has the same issue as Dragon Knight, is when they introduced facets, which I think for a lot of heroes opened up a lot of cool possibilities. It actually made these heroes weird. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like the way that these heroes work under the facet system.
Right. I could agree with that. I definitely would like, we both agree on this. We want Dragon Knight to have the old dragon form where you go from green to red to blue and then rethink the facets entirely.
Yeah.
But we'll see if they do that at some point. Okay. Muerta's been changed. She no longer has Parting Shot. She lost her Ags from that because nobody understood how it worked. And instead they put it on Dazzle in a more understandable version for Dazzle himself.
That's actually true.
Muerta's new Deadshot is the Aghanim's version. Deadshot does more damage, 125 extra, and the AoE expands after it ricochets, and then it pierces through enemies as it fears them.
This one's crazy. So cool.
I think the Scepter sounds really good on support Muerta. Like, really, really good. So, kind of cool.
When I read this, it didn't sound like really 4,200 gold. When you test it in game, it's massive. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think this is also just conceptually a really cool take.
Yeah.
So I like this a
Multiple
lot.
fear. Sure.
Nature's Prophet, a little bit of changes to some facet. I'll just highlight that Ironwood Treants are weaker on high levels.
By the way, real quick.
They were stupid.
When you were playing, I've been playing turbo mode the last few days. Last few weeks, really. I don't know if it's a turbo mode thing. Branches, when you eat them with a tango, don't give double regen. Is that also in regular Dota? Is nobody noticing that?
Am I tripping if I say that's not in regular Dota?
Okay.
That in regular Dota you do get double when you eat a tango?
Yeah, no, I'm saying you should, but I wasn't getting
it.
it.
You're saying it's bugged in turbo in this patch.
Well, I don't know if it's just turbo. I'm just saying that's my only okay, somebody's saying it is bugged. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So it's just
I just haven't been seeing it. It's kind of a major thing, I feel like.
Yeah, it's really big in mid lane in particular.
Yeah. Okay, anyway.
So that's why I lost my lane. Okay.
Yep.
Necrophos Rapid Decay Facet also makes enemies have Restoration Amp decreased by the same value as Necrophos gains. Very interesting counter to heavily regen-reliant heroes like Alchemist.
That's cool.
If you go Rapid Decay, that is. All right, my old boy, Night Stalker. So he had a facet it's removed. The Blinding Void one is gone. Now instead, he has Voidbringer, which increases the max level of Void to 5. Level 5 Void deals 400 damage, and is a point target ability with 300 AoE during the night. This is, if you remember his old Aghanim Scepter that cast Void in a radius around you.
Oh, I love that thing.
It's kind of like a small version of that you can now ground target, but it also does 400 damage. This, I think, is really strong.
Yeah.
First of all, his other facet, he retains Night Rain, which is still going to influence Roshan. He's now just going to be in the top pit at 20 minutes instead of 15 because the day starts swapped with day and night. And now when he has Night Rain, he gets Hunter in the Night for free at level 1, and then the max level is increased to 5, which means you can start the lane with Hunter in the Night and either Crippling Fear or Void. But then Hunter in the Night level 1 is significantly worse, and effectively, level 2 Hunter in the Night is as good as level 1 was before, more or less. Void no longer reduces vision as well. Facet.
When you were when you were saying Voidbringer increases the max level of Void to 5, I was hoping you would say it spawns Lycan's Wolves. Because that would have been fucking great, Cinderin.
I'm so sorry I didn't think of that stupid idea. Yeah, I think these facets are very good, both of them. And they're also relatively close in win rate. He's hovering around 52 to 49-ish with these two. So early days, but
so are they
great choices, both.
So they've gotten rid of, is it 2 out of the 3 vision-based abilities, facets, right? Mars is still there, I believe.
Yeah. Mars has his, yeah.
So the Bristleback and Night Stalker one removed, and is that,
I
think that might be it. That's interesting. That's only one remaining in the game.
Might be a sign. I honestly, I wouldn't mind the Mars one getting removed as well. I don't know. It's one of those, I think conceptually it was a really interesting idea to try it. And I know, was it Dark Lady and Han that had something like that, or what was it?
Yeah. How did you remember that? What the fuck?
I think you've told me at some point.
Wow.
I just think it's... I think that as a concept is too frustrating for what it is, for it to be worth keeping. I think it's too frustrating, and I think it's really hard to balance. So I don't think it makes the gameplay experience much better. Yeah, let's remove Anti-Mage, shall we? Oh, speaking of mana drain, Nyx Assassin. The facet mana burn has been changed, so now it burns more mana on Mind Flare, but Mind Flare only. The previous one did mana burn with all your spells dealing damage. I think this one's worse. And Nyx, the biggest change, one of the biggest losers of this entire patch, Mind Flare no longer instantly kills creeps,
Can I go off on
made him good.
Slight tangent. I understand that this hero in competitive has been being spammed. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And people are annoyed with it. This is a complete overreaction. Mind Flare killing creeps is literally the only reason this hero became relevant during that time. Before that, he had many years of not being played. The only time he would be was Spike Carapace against heroes that bought Radiance or Ember Spirit, shit like that. Now he's going to be fucking dead again. And this mana burn, this is literally just the old version then, right?
As much as I want to agree, I think Mind Flare one-shotting creeps was busted, and I don't like it conceptually, and you could have buffed him in some other way to bring him back. But yeah, just removing the Mind Flare killing creeps and then not buffing him at all to compensate, I think this hero is borderline dead right now. Like that's
I don't disagree with that.
much.
I mean, you can find other ways. I'm just saying that the Mind Flare killing creeps was why this hero was able to get farmed and be useful on the map. So it's just really a shame because he has one of the coolest ults in the game, right? And you're not.
His current win rate with Scuttle is about 50%, but this, yeah, I don't know. I still agree though.
See
I think we'll see how it goes. Okay, we can skip through quite a lot now actually. PA gets a new facet instead of Veiled One. She gets Sweet Release. This one's complicated as fuck, by the way. This is on Stifling Dagger. Whenever a dagger hits and does not kill an enemy, it leaves a stacking debuff that lasts for 6 seconds. When the debuffed unit dies, they launch one Stifling Dagger per stack at random enemies around the target, prioritizing heroes. These daggers have 50% damage and slow duration values. Stacks can't be dispelled, and each new dagger refreshes the duration of all current stacks. Recast range equals Stifling Dagger's cast range, centered around the debuffed enemy. Jesus. Okay.
It's not essentially really that complicated.
If you spam, it's just the wording or whatever.
Yeah,
if you spam daggers into an enemy, if that enemy dies, they throw daggers out around them that prioritize heroes and are worse than a regular dagger. This has higher win rate by far than the other one. Methodical. I don't really like this one conceptually. I just think it's weird.
I agree. It's definitely good though. Just using it on creeps. Doesn't have to be heroes or anything, so just free daggers in lane. Like your laning stage is way better, right? Way better.
This just isn't this is not my vibe. I don't know.
This feels like we couldn't think of anything. Let's just slap something in because we didn't like Veiled One, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty meh on this one.
Phantom Lancer gets Lancelot. Spirit Lance. Copies of Spirit Lance created by Phantom Lancer's illusions deal 25% of the ability's damage. Lance copies don't deal any damage to the enemy they bounce on with Aghanim's Scepter. So if you have max amount of illusions on PL, it's 10, which means if you have the Lancelot facet, your Spirit Lance will do 350% damage because each of the illusions will cast one for 25%. At first glance, this sounds really, really strong. The question is just how easily can you maintain this in a fight? Like how consistently do you have your illusions? And it has about the same win rate as the other facets, by the way. They're both sitting at 45, 46, so not great. But I think my concern with PL, and this was I personally, so this is my personal bias shining through. I hate playing against this hero when it's good in the meta. I just hate it. But
yeah.
I saw a video BSJ did on this hero because it's one of his favorite heroes, and he talked about how the hero's identity has just totally changed. It used to be this overwhelming illusion army that you either need to deal with the illusions or he overpowers you, to being a poke and prod ranged hero that throws lances. And this kind of just furthers that style, right? Now it's even more Spirit Lance centered rather than the illusions are strong. Illusion counter items got buffed, like Radiance and Shiva got better against illusions. Mjolnir got better against illusions over time. So PL as a result kind of suffered. And I don't know if this facet can bring him back at all in Pro, but this hero has been borderline unpickable for I don't know how long in Pro Dota because his laning is bad and he doesn't scale well. So what do you pick him for? Yeah, I don't know. He's just in a weird place.
Yeah.
See what they do about it.
He's been in a weird place for quite a while, though, to be perfectly frank.
Yep. Okay. Phoenix, when you have Hotspot, that's the Sunray facet, it now blinds twice as fast near the end of the beam. Primal Beast gets a new facet called Provoke the Beast. In addition to stacks from hero damage, Primal Beast also gains 2 Uproar stacks from being stunned, hexed, taunted, feared, or rooted.
Hell yeah.
Is that better than Ferocity? So Romp and Stomp was the one you were taking most of the time. That was the movement speed one for Trample.
Yep.
Ferocity is the one that gives AoE increase.
Wait, which one was which one was Romp and Stomp? You trample and it did what?
You get more movement speed during Trample, right?
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't that what it was?
Yeah, that's right.
So you don't have that anymore. Which one of these do you think sounds better now? I would
Pulverize
be tempted to say I think Ferocity is better. But
Yeah.
I guess Provoke the Beast has its moments. If you're playing against specific heroes that
Can you buy
cannot avoid...
Gleipnir on Primal Beast Cinderant with the Pulverize facet?
You can.
It sounds kind of cool.
Doesn't influence Onslaught anymore, though. But it does work with your Pulverize, yeah. I think.
I don't know. I think the new facet sounds decent, though. I don't think it's like objectively bad.
I think it'll have its games. If you're playing against a lot of like dumb roots, or if you're playing against Primal, or if you're playing Primal against Willow, for example, you know you're going to get rooted a lot. You're going to get feared sometimes, and maybe the stacks are nice. But in addition to that, Primal also no longer gains base damage from Uproar. It used to be 5 damage per level, I think. But instead, you now have a level 10 talent where you can take plus 20 damage on level 10. But then you're taking it instead of 80 onslaught damage, so you lose onslaught damage in that way, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, probably a nerfed hero by a decent amount. Pudge, Flayer's Hook is gone.
Boy. Oh.
People are probably going to be happy with that one. It's very frustrating to play against, and you no longer have the eject ability because that was tied to your shard that no longer eats an ally. The shard is now the bleeding hook, essentially. So if you pull an enemy with your hook with shard, no more cast range. You do 20% of the pull distance as bonus damage when you have the shard, and if you hook an ally, you get half your cooldown returned to you on hook, which means 6 seconds on level 4. The other new facet he has, aside from the fact that the fresh meat one got way better, it went from 135 to 246, much better. He now has one called Rotten Core. While Rot is active, Pudge gains bonus attack damage per second, up to 80% max bonus damage after 5 seconds. Once Rot is deactivated, damage bonus rapidly decays over 1 second. Now, this obviously means if you're farming, you can give yourself a lot more damage by just rotting. And if in fights, you're obviously going to use it. So this increases Carry Pudge's potential to farm. And I believe it was actually played by Pure in a pro game yesterday because he loves Carry Pudge to death.
Oh, yeah.
Let's look at some win rates. Rotten Core, 47.1%. Fresh Meat, about 50%.
Okay, that's good news. That's good news.
I'm not gonna conclude based on that Rotten Core is worse than Fresh Meat. I'm just gonna conclude people take Rotten Core and they think they're hot shit and they're building dumb items on Carry Pudge.
I did that today.
Rotten Core might actually be quite good, but people need to find the build.
It is weird to think about like building all these. Like I bought AC today, for example, just to see. Felt pretty good, Cinder. I'm not gonna lie, but
yeah, I could see this being decent because you can use it to farm creeps.
It does feel very random though, doesn't it?
It is random,
but
it's them trying. It's effectively Valve saying play this hero as carry, right? That's what it is.
I think that's fun though. I think that's overall, okay. Even though it feels kind of random, spicing it up a bit.
It's all right.
Am I the only one that's sad that the shard is gone and the other I mean, I didn't use the other facet because they nerfed the shit out of it, so I don't really care that much, I guess. But being able to eat teammates,
not being able to eat allies,
that was iconic for Pudge. Very sad to see that gone.
Yeah.
What was the issue with it? I know it was very powerful. It was always like one of the best shards, but it wasn't like mega broke at any point, I don't think.
I don't necessarily think there was an issue with it. I think this is just a way for them that they think the Flayer's Hook is more fun, and this way they can keep that without having it be a facet which people thought was dumb.
So let me give them change the shard if you want it to be more fun. The thing that made Flayer's Hook more fun was not necessarily the damage, it was the range. That's what made it more fun.
Right.
So that's one I don't like personally.
Fair enough. Okay, moving on. Pugna, Life Drain no longer kills illusions, and Life Drain no longer restores mana, which is a pretty big nerf, actually.
Butler, man, Butler.
But instead, the allied Life Drain heals more on allies. Specifically, you don't drain more from enemies. Queen of Pain, Masochist, you take more damage yourself. And now Bondage, the other one, is a facet that improves Succubus, which is her innate. And Bondage makes Spell Lifesteal apply to reflected magical and pure damage. This is a little bit hard to wrap my head around just how good this is. Because they changed Succubus as well to go from beforehand that was a different facet, right? Now she has it as an innate together with masochist. I don't know. This is just a numbers game on co-op. It's about can you out heal the damage you do to yourself, and which way is better. Unfortunately, I think with this facet combination on this hero, like I said, I think it's just a numbers thing where you figure out which one is better, and then that's just that one, right? Like or maybe I'm just misunderstanding, and there's actually situational ways of using the other one better, but they're extremely close to each other in win rate. The closest so far that we've seen, 50.3 and 49.9. So, yeah, seems relatively.
I feel like this is a hero that facets have greatly made more interesting.
I love masochist as a concept.
I think they've done a good job with her. She's much more interesting and actually played.
Yeah.
Oh, they got rid of the Agshar for Razor. Walking the dog. Well, they didn't get rid of it. They just changed it so it doesn't pull them anymore. But it slows them based on how much damage you've stolen. That one was very... it felt more finicky. I think maybe that's the issue. It felt like there was something wrong with your game. You know what I mean? Your hero wasn't moving the way that you thought, as opposed to just being slowed. So that's my guess why they changed that one.
Yeah. Okay, Ricky... Smoke screen no longer buffs allies. It used to provide evasion bonus against attacks from enemies outside of the smoke cloud against your allies inside the smoke cloud. Yeah, doesn't do that anymore. Good riddance. Ringmaster is in captain's mode.
Hell yeah.
And he does not have the center stage facet anymore. Now he has... This is exactly what we were theorized they were going to do, and they did just that. Two types of... what are they called again? Souvenirs.
Souvenir. Wait, what was the center stage facet?
That was the one that did nothing, right?
The one that did nothing. Okay.
Wasn't it the facet that said Ringmaster is the center of attention? So did it do something? I actually don't remember.
No. I don't.
I think he...
Because I didn't remember him having a facet. So I guess that's... Maybe they did name it. And
yeah, they named it center stage, but it did not.
That's the only thing that confused me about that.
Okay, so what he has now is he has one facet called Carney Classics. That's the exact same as before. It's the same collection of souvenirs. So the new one, if you don't pick that one, it's called Sideshow Secrets. So he has 3 new souvenirs. One is a crystal ball, where you can scan an area, 450 area, and it indicates whether there are enemies in that area, and it reveals invisible units and wards, but does not give vision. And lingers for a second and is global. So just check this area, see what's up there. Second one is a unicycle. I don't know if you've demoed this. This is hysterical. It is awesome. So stupid.
It's so fucking good, though.
He prepares for half a second, and then he starts riding a unicycle. And he rides very fast. It reaches up to 750 move speed, and it has like pretty bad turn rate because it's a unicycle. And if he attacks, uses abilities, takes damage, picks up a rune, or crashes into units or obstacles, he gets dismounted.
So this
dumb.
One, it felt like one of those mini games that they've had in the past.
Yeah,
it is really.
I mean,
cool.
if not this one, just like regardless of whether this is balanced or whatever, it's just funny. Like it's literally just funny. It's just stupid and funny. And the final one is a weighted pie. You toss it onto an enemy, you knock them back and reduce their vision to 50, which they recover over 2 seconds. Target allies won't be able to give them vision for the duration. The pie instantly kills any non-ancient creep. That's so random. Why is that?
I didn't even know that part. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's really random.
Okay. Let me...
Okay, go ahead.
You were going to ask... I was going to ask... I feel like one of these 2 facets is just better than the other. Am I crazy? The new one's just better? I know that there's going to be some
better.
Oh, really? Okay, why?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I think so.
Okay, tell me why.
Because I think both Strongman Tonic and Whoopee Cushion are really powerful.
They are.
And I think in the new one, I can't wrap my head around whether unicycle is good. It's so hard to use, right? Because you need to not hit anything or get hit by anything.
I don't.
In the map, it's kind of hard to drive, I think.
So this is 10 seconds, and it's not like these fucking players are drunk drivers. They've played a lot of games in their life, and they're Well, okay. It's not entirely true. They have good mechanical skill, Cinderin. This is like having one of the... You go really fast. So being able to go from lane to lane, this thing's crazy. This is like... It reminds me of... Obviously, it's toned down version. what was the boots in Han? Basically bought them for 300, and until you got close to an enemy, you would be like super fast as a support. So on the support, this is crazy good. The weighted tie will always like. I think the 3 skills for the sideshow are always going to be good, and for Carney Classics, it's more situational. Strongman is obviously good. Whoopee Cushion's obviously good. Funhouse Mirror, I think, is more situational than any of the other ones.
So I was just curious because I think this is one of the ones where stats is actually very valuable, right? Because these are literally just, do you have one set or the other set, and how much do they win?
Yeah.
Carney Classics has 48.4%, and Sideshow Secrets has 45.1%, so significantly worse.
They're new, okay? People don't know how to ride the bike.
And they have more games, so it's very possible people pick them because they think they're fun and they're not using them correctly. So let's take it with a grain of salt. What I just will say is the left side ones, I don't think Ringmaster is an overpowered hero, clearly. His win rate also isn't that good. I find it frustrating to play against these because you personally need to constantly keep track of what fucking souvenir the guy has to know what's happening in the fight, right? The left ones, the first one's a Manta Dodge. So again, the higher the skill of the game, the better Funhouse Mirror is. Strongman Tonic, just overall strong. A heal protection for yourself or an ally, and the Whoopee Cushion is a self-save where it's Tumblr's toy that you can use while getting hit, right? All 3 of these are, I just think they're going to find more situations in a game where they change the outcome of a situation than the right ones do. I think the unicycle is funny as fuck, but hard to use and hard to imagine how it changes a lot. The weighted pie will be good sometimes, but I just think the classics that he has are just, especially Strongman Tonic and Whoopee Cushion, are just very good. So it makes sense to me that they are doing better, but let's give it some time and they can buff stuff or whatever.
Either way, I love these facets. This is awesome. They could come out with the 3rd one. The same idea. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, they could just expand on it, of course, if they wanted to. That's true. Okay, we are slowly approaching the end here, Shannon. It's got to be very late for you by now.
Oh, it's only 5:45. I'm fine.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We're good. I mean, we're only 3 hours in. I was expecting this to go 4. So
yeah, this is a massive patch, and we're skipping over a lot of stuff. Still, we're there. If you didn't have to go to the bathroom, we would have saved 2 minutes there. Okay, Demonic Cleanse on Shadow Demon. No longer upgrades with levels of Demonic Purge, but you don't need Demonic Purge for it to be castable. I don't understand why that ever matters. Why would you not have your ult? And it doesn't upgrade with your Shadow. I just don't understand this change. Is why I'm saying it. It's not really. Let's move on. Not waste time.
Yep, very important.
Shadow Shaman. Cluster Cluck has been removed. Instead, you now get a new facet called Chicken Fingers. Whenever you hit a hero, you turn them into a chicken with 100 movement speed for 1 second on a 15-second cooldown. Seems very good.
Yeah.
And now Foul Play is upgraded with Shard. And when you have your Shard, it effectively makes Foul Play the old one with the 3 extra chickens. If you don't have Shard, you just get the 1 chicken. So they always know which one is obviously real. And then it also gets better with the Shard with more invulnerability time and stuff. So, yeah. That's that. Shaman also gets a new scepter, which is crazy. I've seen this in play.
So cool. It's so fucking cool. I love this.
So we played a caster in-house last night. I think you weren't there. Last night for me.
You think I wasn't there? Correct. I wasn't there. Why did you have to think about it?
I'm saying you weren't online, or I would have invited you. You weren't around in Dota because we were getting people. We weren't excluding you. I'm just making this clear.
You guys are in Europe. I wouldn't have played anyway. Come on.
It wasn't like the Cabal minus Shannon, okay? No. So it was a lot of the people that are currently covering Dream League, and we did an in-house league game, and we had Crit playing in one of the games, and he played mid Shaman.
Oh boy.
And he rushed Ags, and he was killing fools. So he was literally just. He was playing with Gunner's Alchemist, and he was just shackling the Alch, and he could just run into people.
That's awesome.
Because it has 2,000 range before the shackles break.
Why don't you explain what it does?
Yeah, right. Okay, good point. I got ahead of myself. So it makes cast range of shackles 150 bigger, from 450 to 600, and now shackled units expel an Ether Shock every 0.9 seconds that affects all enemies within 600 units for 100% of Ether Shock's damage values, except the target itself. So the guy you shackle does not get Ether Shocked, but everyone else. So they become like a vessel of shocks. You can cast this on enemies, allies, and serpent wards. So if you ward trap someone, instead of shackling them, you can actually shackle a ward to do more damage to them. And like I said in the game we played, he shackled an alchemist in a situation or two, and the alchemist just running into the fight, and he's just ether shocking around him. I think this scepter is actually really strong in the right situations. Obviously, you no longer have the mass serpent ward scepter then instead.
I heard there was a video of somebody getting carted by Centaur as the shaman, and they would shackle Centaur, and wherever he ran, he can just aim the ether shot.
Wow, that's actually super strong.
Sounds very cool.
Okay, that's a cool combo. Okay, Silencer.
This is the coolest ags added in this patch by far.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree. Silencer, rework. I mean, do we really...
All right, all we have to say is he's a version from 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, Last Word now puts it on a target. If they cast a spell, they get silenced. You get Flying Vision over them. This is the old Last Word. And Arcane Curse is now reworked to version 2.0, version 2, 6th try. Yeah. Global Silence no longer applies to couriers, though, which is a great, very important change. Thanks for that, Valve. Silencer's back.
Man, that's... I don't know if we've seen a hero with as long of a 360 as Silencer. You know what I mean? This is a really old version.
Yeah.
Like,
his
somewhat early Dota now. Too. I mean, I don't know why they changed to begin with. I feel like conceptually these skills were fine back in the day, so...
52.3% win rate with reverberating silence in 39,000 games. He might actually be quite good. I mean, when I said he was back as a joke, it was because of the silence on couriers. It was like, who cares? But the Last Word Arcane Curse combination, this one, might just be, might just be the special sauce he needs to see some play. For me, this is an iconic Dota hero. He's super old.
Yeah. This is Valve's version of hard rebooting, right?
Yeah, basically.
Just
they're like, all right, we
modem,
tried 7 different...
Try it again.
Yeah. Couldn't figure it out. Skywrath Mage, Concussive Shot no longer has a creep damage penalty, so he actually gets the opposite treatment of some of the other heroes with farming or whatever. Yeah, I think that's the main thing we need to mention about him. Slardar, I'll just mention his name. There's a lot of water on the map. Think about that.
True.
Slark, Dark Reef Renegade, Barracuda now causes Slark's attacks to apply a non-stacking debuff that reduces the target's armor. So you can choose this one instead of the one that gives you Essence Shift decks on Connected Pounce. It'll be interesting to see what people do with this hero. And also how Slark fares in general in the new map. Because if it's harder to ward, Slark is better. Spectre Forsaken got reworked. So now Desolate deals 1.75 times damage, but Spectre's illusions can no longer trigger Desolate. So this is a pretty major change from before. And now Twist the Knife no longer decreases the cooldown of, I believe, Spectral Dagger when you use Reality. Spectre's whole playstyle in the last patch of jump in, cast your shit, jump out is definitely worse here. But I don't know if the hero is just flat out, Let's see what the win rate is sitting at.
Oh yeah, she's
Forsaken
universal
is awful. Forsaken
well.
is doing awful, and Twist the Knife is doing quite well. So Twist the Knife is 52% win rate. Forsaken is 41.9, so atrocious, which doesn't really surprise me.
But the fact that she's universal, I feel like should help, right? Because of the build she typically, at least historically, went for.
The thing is, the coefficients have changed, right? So the way we're thinking about universal, we might need to rethink it a little bit, because how good are the items really?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
If it's 0.45 per attribute instead of 0.7. But yeah, she still seems to be hovering at a decent win rate with Twist the Knife, so might be okay. Spirit Breaker gets a new facet called Bullshit. Greater Bash. Bash chance increases if you've bashed more than one hero within the last 10 seconds. Each additional hero past the first increases greater bash chance by 17%. So if you charge through 3 heroes, you have 51% chance to bash for 10 seconds.
Yeah, that's crazy.
This one is super weird. It's clear that they really wanted this to be a thing with the name and everything. I don't know at a high level if I would think this is ever better than the other one, because the move speed one is really good. Let's see. How's he doing? Yeah, Bull Rush is performing better across all brackets, but I don't know if this one is better in an individual bracket. The bullshit.
I think it's fine to have some of these facets that are just fun to try. Like, we'll get to this a little later in the review of the patch, but like stuff like this, like I would go back. Yeah. I want to try this. I think that's great to have facets like that, even if they're not competitively viable. That's fine.
100% agree. All right, Sven loses the penalty on Wrath of God, so it no longer decreases your base damage. People were never taking that because it sucks playing without damage on Sven, who would have thought? And they also buffed Warcry on Heavy Plate a little bit. He got some stats changes as well. I think Sven overall should be better now. Don't know how good exactly he's going to be. Techies. Spoon's Stash. This was the one before that allowed you to use
your backpack.
Items from your backpack, right?
Yeah.
As for stats, yeah.
Which was cool.
Now, instead, he stacks all previously selected enchantments onto newly crafted neutral items, and it allows you to have 2 tier 5 enchantments by recrafting a tier 5 item. This sounds pretty good. You just flat out get extra enchantments.
Yeah.
Right?
So
your tier 4 neutral item will have a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and a tier 4 enchantment on it, right? It'll have all 4.
Yeah, it's stats.
That's quite strong, actually. This has to be his highest win rate facet. There's no way. Let's see. Yeah. Spoons. No, the highest one's actually Spleen's Secret Sauce. Interesting.
Which one is that?
That is the one that gives you Blast Off, increased damage for yourself and enemies. That's the highest. Interesting. It's not by a lot, though. These are pretty close together. TA gets a new facet called Hidden Reach, which I think could be something in Pro. When in Meld, Templar Assassin gradually increases her attack range by up to an additional 400 range over the course of 1 second. So you Meld, and then you have a very long attack range Meld. I think for a lot of lane matchups, this guarantees that you can Meld spam the opponent hero, actually. So I think this has uses. You're obviously taking it instead of the Void Blades, which are incredible. So it comes at a cost, but I could see this being used, actually. Let's see.
It has a nice indicator as well in-game.
Her win rates are ass on all facets, and the highest one is on Refractor. What's going on?
Which one's Refractor?
That's the one where you gain an offensive refraction every time you lose a barrier. Interesting. But yeah, I guess part of the reason she suffers massive losses in win rate here is her Psyblade nerf overall. It got way worse on low levels. Psyblade is way worse. So your laning is just weaker. We'll see. All right. Tide Hunter. This one I'm a bit excited about because I think we might actually see this now. Krill Eater no longer reduces base strength. So now people might play the scaling Tide and maybe even play him as a carry. I think that would be really fun to see.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I love this hero. Timbersaw gets some nerfs.
Kraken Shell has an active Cinderin.
Oh, true.
It's always been a passive.
That's true.
So it can be activated to double the block amount at the cost of 40% of your movement speed. So it's like, what was that item? The neutral, the armor one? Basically like that one.
Yeah, what was that called? The plate thing. God, I forgot.
It doesn't matter.
And also worth noting, Kraken Shell has 50% block value against creeps. Before it was 100, so when you got level 2 Kraken Shell, you could just tank the wave indefinitely. This is a pretty big nerf, because now you need to cast this spell in order to protect yourself from the wave, and you're going to be slowed. So this one actually kind of hurts, the 50% block value against creeps, but when you have level 4 Kraken Shell, I guess you're immune to creeps regardless. But you need to get there. So your laning is way weaker against the wave, which honestly is probably fair, right? It was kind of maybe a bit dumb that you were just immune to the wave at level 2 Kraken.
It does have a very nice particle. Just throwing it out there. Looks cool. Good job, Valve.
Nice. Timbersaw, Twisted Chakram is way more expensive at higher levels in terms of mana cost, and it does less damage, and Chakram itself is also more expensive. Timber just got nerfed hard, actually, on mana costs. And on top of that, his level 20 talent that gives 20% magic resistance got replaced. That you heal more when you break trees, and yeah, this talent was widely considered just dumb, that Timber gets 20% magic resist for free, so I'm very happy that this got removed. Tinker, bit stronger on the Ag's laser, 15% up from 10. We'll mention that. And then on to Tiny. Now, I read this, Shannon. I read Tiny's changes, and I took him off my hero list for picking myself in pubs. I was like, this hero is dead.
The crash
when
landing?
I read this. So crash landing goes from 20% to, or 20 plus 5% per level of grow to just 20% at all levels. And then avalanche no longer deals bonus damage to tossed units.
Mm-hmm.
It got a bit of damage to compensate, but not nearly the same amount as you would do with a full combo. And toss also got a little bit of damage. So essentially, what made Tiny so special was that the Avatos combo did bonus damage. Now it doesn't do that anymore, so now the spells are just independent spells that don't combo. And Kanda got mega nerfed, right? So I thought this hero is just gonna disappear. Apparently he got picked 3 times on day 1 of Dream League and went 1 and 2. So people are still playing it. I thought he would suck, personally. I thought this hero's just dead.
1 and 2 does suck. Small sample size, though. I never liked his crash landing facet, though.
Around 50% with both facets, though. So he might be okay, you know? Maybe he's better than I think. I thought this was going to kill the hero. Yeah. Okay. Troll gets a new facet called Bad Influence. During Battle Trance, you have increased max fervor stacks up to 15, and you have no attack speed limit. Also, Battle Trance grants allied heroes 50% of the attack speed bonus. I demoed this, and I was able to make Troll hit every 0.06 seconds. With, I don't know if you, it was like Oracle Ags.
You went really try hard.
Nice. And I buffed him in the ways. It was just me and Chad just theorizing what we could do, and his attack speed went up to 1800.
Not bad. Not bad. Yeah.
He had 5 moon shards, an Eden moon shard, butterfly for the BAT reduction, Oracle giving him BAT reduction, and a neutral item that gives BAT reduction. I think I had all of those, and it was 0.06. Funny, irrelevant, not going to happen. I don't know if this facet's going to be picked much, but maybe.
I don't know. This one sounds it sounds cool.
It's funny if nothing else.
I'm still waiting for the facet where you can control your ultimate. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be great, huh?
One day.
Okay. I mean, honestly, that is almost pretty much it. Wind Ranger, I guess. Wind Ranger and Wyvern, right. Wind Ranger gets 2 new facets. She gets Shackle Shot called Tangled. It applies Shackle Shot to all units and trees behind the target, each granting Wind Ranger bonus attack damage for 6 seconds, while trees and other units provide 50% less. Not less damage, but less than she gets for shackling other heroes. She gets plus only. Primary Shackle Shot target doesn't provide any damage, so it's only based on what lands behind it. The other one is Kill Shot. It's kind of the old Power Shot that they experimented with at one point, where Power Shot executes, so when heroes are low enough, they get 1 shot by Power Shot. And that is obviously calculated after Power Shot does its own damage. Then if you're below the kill threshold, you die. Kind of like Ice Blast. I think the Tangled one sounds pretty strong.
Have you tried it in game?
Both of them have really bad win rate. I've not tried it.
I tried both, and not that I'm the great judge of these. They both did not seem that great to me.
All right.
I think I was talking to Lyrical. The Kill Shot facet seems like it would be potentially good when you're fighting against these big, tanky, strengthy guys.
Right.
But other than that, it's like, usually you're just either getting the kill or you're not. I don't know.
I just don't think this hero's in a good place right now. I'm not sold.
Yeah, she's kind of weird. I mean, I don't know if you mentioned, but as a result, they got rid of the Whirlwind facet. So
right, she doesn't have that either.
Gone.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Wyvern is int, and Wyvern has 2 new facets. One of them is called Winterproof, which allows you to cold embrace buildings. So effectively, that is making your towers indestructible against anything but spells for 6 seconds on buildings. The affected units or buildings gain 60% bonus attack damage after the cocoon thaws. If the building is under both Cold Embrace and Glyph, the buff duration is paused, so you can stack this with Glyph to have it even longer. On buildings, it doesn't work on creeps. And then the other one's called Recursive. It makes affected enemies take 125% of physical, magical, and pure damage from Wyvern, and when the cursed enemy dies, Winter's Curse is recast on the lowest health enemy hero affected by the curse. The recast has minimum, maximum, and bonus durations equal to 50% of the default spell.
Yeah, this one seems like it's going to be the one that's everyone's picking. I wonder. Tell me what the win rates of this one is. It seems pretty strong.
Recursive is 54% win rate, and Winterproof is 51.4. So Recursive's definitely doing better. I think the Winterproof one could be really interesting in some situations, though. Like, you can
I like
really
it
defend forever with this.
Yeah.
What's the cooldown of Cold Embrace level 4? Let me just quickly look it up. So the cooldown of Cold Embrace level 4 is 15 seconds, and you block damage for 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
So effectively, yeah, you could have, like, if you wanted to be really, really sweaty about defending your base forever, you could have Octarine and stuff. And then a tier 5 neutral with cooldown reduction. You see where I'm getting?
And you get Treant Protector, so you can actually heal the tower too, guys.
Yep. Okay. That's what you sound like. Witch Doctor lost Voodoo Festoration. Bye-bye.
Yep, good riddance.
And finally, Zeus gets Livewire changed in such a way that it does not reduce your damage when you're hitting people outside of short range, which is a bit weird. I still think Zeus is going to be very good with Livewire. And if you want to run Divine Rampage, it is better than before. It's 10% more damage per kill, so up from 15 to 25. I personally conceptually don't like Divine Rampage because I think it's way too situational how it works. Like, yeah, it's cool if it lands, but I think most of the time this facet does nothing, actually. And people just pick it and think, oh my god, wouldn't it be cool if... And then it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know. I would rework that one entirely instead of buffing it. I just don't think it's good. But Livewire is fine. Yeah, I think Zeus is still good. Let's see his win rates. Looking pretty good. 52% with Livewire and 50% with Divine Rampage. So, all right. Shannon, that's the whole list of changes. That was a shitload of stuff.
Yes, it was.
Then we usually try to give some sort of a conclusion. Do you want to go first?
Well, we're giving our review, not a conclusion.
Okay, sure. Yep.
Okay, so this was a gigantic patch, so I have mixed feelings. Usually with these big patches, I'm super in, and I think throughout my entire stream today, I was trying to figure out what was bothering me about the patch, and there's two aspects to it. One is the competitive side, which I feel like actually most of the stuff in here is for competitive. Like, it's going to be more noticeable in competitive. But when we cast, this is going to be fucking awesome. I'm super excited to cast games on this patch. From a playing perspective, I'm not saying, first of all, any change is good. So I'm happy about that. There's nothing, like, none of the big changes are like mega exciting for me. Like, in the past, when they've come out with these enormous patches, I usually make a list. Oh, these 10 plus heroes, I need to try this, I need to try this, I need to try this. I didn't even bother this time. Like, there's some cool stuff for sure, and some of it, is subjective because I don't play every hero in the game, but none of it is like mind-blowing, and it's mostly quality of life. So overall, I think it's a very good patch, but if I'm comparing it to other massive patches, it's a little under par for me. But things like again, a lot of this stuff we'll see. Like the Wisdom Rune changes and the Lotus changes, excellent. Tormentor, the fact that it's opposite of the Roche Pits, conceptually, I understand it's interesting so far. And again, this is the first day of playing. I kind of miss having, a Tormentor nearby.
Okay.
The water stuff I find completely irrelevant. I'm sure the pros.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
The pros might prove me completely. Again, after the first day, I don't think anybody has this figured out, but maybe it'll make more sense at that point. The Roche Pits being in the river, obviously that's my idea center, so
awesome.
It's obviously a great change. And then let's see, what are the other bigger ones? The neutrals, I really like the neutral changes, but it's kind of what I was saying is, in the past, we've had these gigantic patches that will introduce something new that's mind-blowing. Like, what the fuck? This is just, and I say just, this is a huge improvement over the original neutral item concept, but it's still just an improvement. It's not really crazy new, mind-blowing.
Right.
You know?
I see what you mean.
So mixed feelings overall. Tier 5 items got worse, I think, or less exciting, I should say. Maybe that's the word. As a player, when comparing the big patches, this is less exciting for me,
Right.
and more exciting from watching and casting. But
I
overall,
understand where you're
it's
coming
very. I mean, overall, it's still obviously very good patch.
Yeah.
And it'll take time to unpack it all. What about you?
I do think that's a fair thing to say, though. Like, this is a very, very big patch, but there's no new system, right?
Yeah.
You could argue that the crafting is a new system, but in reality, it is a new wrapping for neutral items. It is still the same system, but tweaked, right? It's the concept is you kill camps, something drops, you empower your hero with it, and there's a random element to which items you get to choose from and what they do for your hero, but you have a bit more control yourself. I agree 100%. I think this system is better than the previous one. I have my own personal biases about which items they chose. I think they could have done a better job with selecting the base items. I think some of the artifacts are, for me, a bit too, I want to say, game-breaking in certain situations with what they do, whereas there were other options that they could have taken that I personally think would have been better, but I'm okay with it either way. The crafting system, I think, is relatively easy to understand if you just read it for a moment. So even if it seems overwhelming as a beginner, you try a game or two, you're probably going to get it. And it gives you a lot of agency in the game of where you want your hero to go. So you can even change it along the way, which I think is cool. You're not like, okay, on my first neutral item, I'm making it attack speed and night vision, and then all following artifacts you find just have that. You can just re-roll it entirely if the game situation changes, which I think is great, that you can change your mind or a new problem arises that you need to solve, so you're fixing it with that. That's very good. Item changes. I love the rethought halberd. I love the rethought Gleipnir. I think that is, to me, is some of the standout best changes here is item revisions. Not sure where I stand on the Conda. I think that one's a bit weird. The ranged break, don't know yet. Revenant's brooch, I think, is still hard to wrap my head around when and how and why that's good, but will be figured out over time. Something I was hoping for more than anything in this patch, there were two things I was hoping for more than anything. Number one, a fix to Immortal Draft that did nothing.
They still have time, Cinderin. The
so that's a miss.
Suns fan prediction still has time.
That's a miss. Number two is economy changes, where they did almost nothing. There's fewer bounty runes, so there's a little bit less gold on the map there. With the power levels of these neutral camps and how many there are and how long they take to kill and stuff, I don't know if the gold has less or more, if the map has less or more gold now. And on top of that, the Tormentor is, to me, I like the idea of removing the two Tormentors. I don't think it's that interesting to have one each. I think it's fine that you're fighting over it, but I think it does too much. I don't think it should give all this gold plus shard. I think it's way too valuable to kill it, and it's going to decide games too much. But it being a contested objective is fine. Love the Roche redesign. I think that was long overdue and it's awesome to have him out of the corners. I think a lot of the hero redesigns, we didn't talk about all the details, obviously, because it would have taken for literal ever. But a lot of them are good. I think some of them are conceptually interesting, but just poorly implemented and needs time. And this is what happens when you make this big overhaul to heroes. Some heroes will be awful, like Morphling. Morphling Flow is insanely bad win rate. And Dragon Knight Fire Dragon is ridiculously overpowered, but we'll give it a couple of weeks and they're probably going to normalize that a bit. Just like you, I love the changes to Wisdoms compared to before. I still am not sure I like the concept in general, but this is way better. So similar to my gripes I used to have with neutral items, I might not love the base concept, but they're improving it, which is good. So they're taking it in a direction that I think is better. So that's nice. Normalizing lifesteal, I think, was a good choice. I'm just scrolling through it here. I feel like that's pretty much all of it, right?
That's the bulk.
Yeah, I would have liked there to be less gold on the map. I think it would have been better if the game was a bit slower. And how many universal heroes do we have now?
It's not even anymore, that's for sure.
We have quite a lot fewer, right?
Yeah, there's a decent amount fewer.
So... All right, I'm being told right now that Fire DK has bugs that matter a lot. They're not being specified to me. Very cryptic.
Okay.
But But maybe if those bugs get fixed, he will be sitting in a better place when that gets handled. There might just be something that's crazy. But yeah, like overall, looking down the win rate of heroes and their facets, most heroes are sitting around 50-ish, 50 to 52 to 48, obviously. And then there's just the outliers that are straight up terrible. Chen seems to be in a really rough spot. Morphling Flow is doing very poorly. Kez is not doing great. That's unsurprising. But yeah, the vast majority of the hero roster remains pretty intact and doing quite well. So I'm kind of with you. Overall, I think it's a very solid patch. I think a lot of the things they wanted to do are fun and creative. Once again, Immortal Draft and Economy was what I was hoping for. I didn't get that, but a lot of the things I didn't know I wanted were in here. So that's cool.
Like Polywog Priest creeps.
I don't really care too much for the new creeps, to be honest. I don't know. That didn't really interest me at all. But I do but I do think the item reworks are very good. Pretty much across the board. I really think they nailed the items this time. With the asterisk of Kanda. And maybe Phylactery got a bit over-nerfed, but like the place that they were coming from with everything, I really like. So
okay, let's finish this up with one question, and don't take forever.
Okay.
I've already ranted, so I want to hear your opinion.
Okay.
Why are these patches not increasing the number of the first digit in the patch? Why is this not 8.0? Well, technically, why is this not 11.0? Because there have been several 8, 9, and 10.0s up until now.
I will say with the logic of if talents and new map was 7.0, I think there was a strong case to be made that the bigger map patch with tormentors and all this stuff should have been 8.0, more so than this one.
Okay, sure.
That one changed way more. So I will say why that one wasn't 8.0, I don't know. I don't think this one should actually be 8.0. I think if the other one is just point whatever, then this definitely is also point whatever.
Let me put game design hat on you, Cinderin.
Okay.
You're a part of Valve.
I know what you're going to say. It gives more hype.
There's no... Okay, so what is the reason not to do it? That's what I'm more interested in.
I don't know. I have no clue. That's my short answer. No rant.
Thank you.
No clue.
Thank you so much, Cinderin. Really appreciate it.
But I think we both agree that the biggest patch we've had in the last 2 years was the one that made the map bigger. That was the single biggest patch.
That is the biggest patch?
The biggest patch ever. Maybe.
Yeah, literally ever.
It was bigger than 7.0.
Oh, so easily.
Yeah. And if that one is an 8.0, I don't know what it's going to take, but maybe they just don't like the thought of going up that close to 10. Maybe they feel like it's a problem.
I think it's because they don't have a marketing department, Cinder. Maybe they just don't know, you know?
They don't know the power of 8.
Yeah, they don't know that the numbers attract more people to the game, and they become more interested as a result, you know? I genuinely have not been able to think of a single reason why. But
I don't know.
If you guys can think of it, I'm just, again, maybe there is a reason that we're not aware of. Let us know in the YouTube comments. I'm genuinely interested to know if there's a legitimate, like, alternate universe reason. Anywho, that's the only mind-boggling thing to me. Anyway, I think that does it for this patch, Cinder. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You did not, you actually stuck to your word. You didn't go ham. Appreciate you.
Yep. Good job,
everyone.
It's
only 6 in the morning here.
Nice.
All right. Thanks for watching. Until next time, Sunsfan Sinner signing out. We'll see you guys in a cast relatively soon. Not too long now. Bye. We say things that don't mean anything.
Subscribe.
What the heck's going on?